February 23rd, 2021, Committee on Zoning, Landmarks, and Building Standards is called to order pursuant to applicable law. The chairman has determined that an in-person meeting is not practical or prudent. Accordingly, attendance at this meeting will be by remote means only. We will start off with the roll call of the committee. As always, members, please unmute yourself when I get to you. We'll start with Alderman Hopkins.
Alderman Hopkins present.
Alderman Dowell.
Alderman Dowell is present, Mr. Chairman.
Good morning. Alderman Sawyer. Alderman Beal.
Yep, Mr. Chairman.
Sir. Alderman Ray Lopez.
Yes, I am here.
Alderman Moore.
Present.
Alderman Rodriguez. Mike. Alderman Cicho Lopez.
Present.
Alderman Burnett. Vice Chair Raboyes. Ariel? Okay. Alderman Cardona.
Present, Chairman.
Alderman Wagasback.
Present.
Alderman Kerry Austin. Alderman Villegas. Alderman Riley.
Present.
Alderman Kappelman.
Present.
Alderman Osterman. Alderman Haddon.
Present.
And Alderman Tunney is here.
Sawyer's here.
Thank you. We have 13. We have a quorum. All right. All right. I would like to note that discussions are still occurring on both ordinances pertaining to manufacturing districts. These ordinances are document numbers 02020-4590 and 2021-452 will be held to a future date certain, and it will be our next committee on zoning for the record. All right. And for those of you that don't know the numbers, that's what we call the clean air ordinance. So that's going to be held until our next meeting. We'll now move on to the approval of the Rule 45 reports containing the minutes of the January 26, 2021 Committee on Zoning, Landmark, and Building Standards hearing. All members of the committee should have received a copy of this report electronically. And if hearing no objections, can I get a motion to move by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum to approve the minutes?
Riley so moves.
Alderman Riley makes the motion. Any objections? Hearing no objections, the report has been approved. Okay. Now we're moving on. We will now hear the items to be deferred. I'll read the ward, the file number, the address, and the page number, and take a motion for all at the end. On page 11 of the revised agenda and page 3 of the regular agenda in the 42nd ward, file number 20594 for the address commonly known as 640 West Washington Boulevard. Also on page 11 of the revised agenda and page 6 of the regular agenda in the 29th ward, file number 20592 for the address commonly known as 7152 through 7190 West North Avenue, 1601 through 1657 North Harlem Avenue, 7153 through 7191 West Wabansia Avenue, and 1600 through 1636 North Neva Avenue. Okay. On page 11 of the revised agenda and page 7 of the regular agenda in the 27th ward, file number 20590 for the address commonly known as 911 through 925 Fulton Market, 202 through 212 North Peoria Street, 900 through 924 West Lake Street, 201 through 233 North Sangamon Street. Next, on page 12 of the revised agenda and page 8 of the regular agenda in the 27th Ward, file number 20591 for the address commonly known as 1229 West Randolph Street. On page 12 of the revised agenda and page 8 of the regular agenda in the 27th Ward, file number 20593 for the address commonly known as 159 through 185 North Green Street, 801 through 825 West Lake Street, and 162 through 184 North Halsted. On page 12 of the revised agenda and page 10 of the regular agenda in the 4th Ward, file number 20589 for the address commonly known as 920 through 1006 South Michigan Avenue and 1011 through 1015 South Wabash Avenue. Lastly, on page 13 of the revised agenda and page 10 of the regular agenda in the 1st Ward, file number 20596 for the address commonly known as 1510 West Fry Street. If no questions by committee members, can I get a motion to move to defer these previously listed items by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum?
So moved by Alderman David Moore.
Alderman David Moore makes that motion. Any objections to that motion? Hearing no objections, these items have been deferred. At this time, we will now begin the public comment period. Out of respect for everyone's time, each speaker is limited to 3 minutes to address all items on the agenda. This will be the only opportunity to address the items on the entire agenda, and the committee will not conduct separate public comment for each agenda item. We have 2 speakers signed up today. And our first speaker, Marilyn May. Marilyn?
Hi, good morning, everyone. How are you? As you stated, I'm Marilyn May. I'm not addressing any of the items on the agenda. I was asked to call to address the committee on a smaller scale to just make sure you're aware about the DuSable initiative as a member of the Black Heroes Matter Coalition. Is that okay?
Ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
All
Proceed.
right. Okay. So as we close out Black History Month this week, I've been reflecting and was reminded of the words of 2 individuals who, with all of its flaws, still absolutely love the city of Chicago. Its rich cultural history, and especially the history that Jean-Baptiste Point DuSable has with it. The late Lerone Bennett Jr., who was an author, a historian, a scholar, and a longtime editor for the iconic Ebony magazine, during an interview he did with WTTW some years ago, said this: "Let's expose the biggest secret of Chicago." And the late Margaret Burroughs, who was an artist, an educator, a poet, a cultural historian, and co-founder of the iconic DuSable Museum of African American History, also while appearing on WTTW, said, "DuSable is indeed Chicago's first settler. He built the first home in Chicago. He was the first wholesaler, the first meat packer, and established the first trading post, making him the first merchant prince." So you all, this is a no-brainer. DuSable is this city's founder. So let's celebrate it. Again, I ask this committee and the full city council to join the mayor and do 3 things this month: institute a full city holiday for DuSable, approve a budget for the construction of a major DuSable monument, and rename Lakeshore Drive for DuSable. All 3 of these matters should be voted on and approved during tomorrow's full city council meeting in the spirit of Black History Month. Expose Chicago's biggest secret. Let the world know that the city of Chicago honors its founder, Jean-Baptiste Point DuSable, no matter the color of his skin. I thank you for this opportunity to address you this morning. And for more, you can go to blackheroesmatter.org.
Thank you, Ms. May. Our next speaker is Renee Patton.
Hi, my name is Renee. I'm a member of the Ready for 100 Chicago Collective, representing community organizations across Chicago and with the Edgewater Environmental Coalition. When I signed up to speak last week, I had planned to express my support for the air ordinance for more oversight for Chicago's polluting industry through zoning rules. There have been some discussions over the last couple of days that have changed. I no longer support it as it stands right now. But since I already signed up to speak, and you'll be discussing it at your next meeting, I'm here and we'll share broad views on what Chicago, I'd like you all to look for in promoting public health and improving air quality. What I know is that in the ordinance put forth for zoning and air pollution to protect residents that live in planned manufacturing districts and industrial facilities, that the ordinance must include transportation, distributions, and logistics, or TDLs. These cause harmful particulate pollution from the diesel that comes out of trucks' exhaust. Ready for 100, which is a coalition working to ensure Chicago's transition to 100% clean and renewable energy is accessible for all. Our research team has discussed these facts on the harmful particulates and are making sure our members of residents, volunteers, and local organizations know these facts. I also specifically want to call attention to the fact this is just not about the wards with the planned manufacturing districts and industrial areas. This is a citywide issue. It's about the fact that other wards benefit from the burdens being placed on those wards. So all alders, all of you, have an important role to play here and a duty to address disparities. To that end, residents across Chicago have been hunger striking with the 10th Ward Brave Souls, who are now on their 20th day of a hunger strike to stop General Iron from becoming a neighbor to their schools, homes, and parks. They are putting their own health at risk to protect their loved ones and beloved spaces. So in addition to passing an ordinance on zoning for air pollution that is done in collaboration with the environmental justice community, you all need to stand up for your constituents and neighbors that are currently not eating and demand the city and Mayor Lightfoot deny the General Island permit. I'll repeat that these strikers haven't eaten for 20 days. This is how important that this is to them and us. And I just want to take a couple seconds, just like reflect on potentially what it would be like to not eat for 20 days. That's 3 Mondays they haven't eaten.
Okay.
None of these actions are the end-all be-all. This is the first step to correcting historical inequities. Whatever is passed needs to be implemented well and have mechanisms for enforcement and accountability. We look forward to community engagement with Mayor Lightfoot and all of you on the larger efforts to improve air quality in Chicago. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That concludes the public comment portion of the meeting. We're now going to start today with the addendum to the agenda. The first item on the agenda is a substitute ordinance as amended concerning 02019-8529, an amendment to Municipal Code Section 1364-150 to further regulate standards for the installation of smoke alarms and detectors. This item was heard in the committee on March 16th of 2020, and on that date, a substitute ordinance passed this committee by a vote of 9-3. Following that vote, the Department of Buildings and Fire Department indicated they wanted to make additional changes to that substitute ordinance. A substitute ordinance as amended has been prepared reflecting those changes. Before we consider those changes, I need a motion to reconsider the vote would be required in order to get the substitute as amended before this committee. So can I get a motion to reconsider the vote by the same roll call as was applied to determine quorum?
Alderman Cardona.
Alderman, the motion to reconsider was made by Alderman Cardona. Any objection to that? Hearing no objection, so ordered. Now, I'll need a motion to accept the substitute ordinance as amended by the same roll call that as was applied to determine quorum. Can I get a motion?
Alderman Cardona's motion.
Alderman Cardona moves to the substitute ordinance as amended. And any objection to that motion? Hearing none, the substitute as amended is in front of us and will be explained by Grant
I
Ulrich.
know, me too. I'm
Grant Ulrich from the Department of Buildings. And followed by that, we'll hear from Fire Commissioner Richard Ford II. And then I think Alderman Gil Villegas would like to comment since he was the original maker of this ordinance. So we'll start with Grant.
Good morning, Chairman and members of the committee. Thank you for having me here today, and thank you for giving us the time to continue to work on this ordinance and I think improve it from when it was last heard. So as everyone knows, we all care very much about health and safety, and working smoke detector smoke alarms are proven to save lives. But repeatedly, we have people dying in buildings where smoke alarms aren't installed or aren't working because the batteries have been removed. So, and that happens unfortunately in neighborhoods where some of our most vulnerable residents live. So this ordinance focuses on those older buildings which have battery-powered smoke alarms instead of hardwired smoke alarms, which have been required in new construction since the mid-1980s. But for those older buildings that have battery-powered smoke alarms, this will transition our requirement consistent with state law to a more reliable form where the battery is not removable and sealed into the smoke alarm for the life of the smoke alarm, which is for up to 10 years. Again, it doesn't allow the tenant to remove that battery. And again, it moves us from an obligation for tenants to replace and maintain batteries and smoke alarms to a requirement for landlords to provide the entire functioning smoke alarm for its working life. This requirement, as in the amended ordinance, will take effect for non-owner occupied buildings January 1st of 2022. And when the state law phases in January 1st of 2023, it will also apply to owner occupied units, but owner occupied units who continue to provide the older style cannot be fined for 10 years. So the first time an owner occupant who provides a functioning smoke alarm is subject to this requirement is January 1st, 2033. We have also added provisions when this requirement takes effect statewide that the sale of the non-complying type of removable battery smoke alarm will be prohibited in Chicago, again, January 1st, 2023. So we'll be able to work with the Department of Business Affairs and Consumer Protection and retailers to make sure that the older style is no longer being sold in about a little over a year and a half. But that will give those retailers time to sell existing stock. We do want to get everyone to have a functioning smoke alarm. Both types do work, but I think this will move us to an improved standard. I know Commissioner Ford is here to speak on this also, but I'm happy to take any questions after that.
Grant, I think for the benefit of the committee members, since it's been almost a year, we do have a PowerPoint, a one-pager about the effect of this 10-year smoke alarm ordinance. Do you want to put that up for at least a minute or two? I don't know if we do a split screen or not. They've been sent it, right? Members have been sent it. Let's see how technology works here.
And I believe this one pager was to emphasize some of the changes in the ordinance since it was last considered by the committee. So the top portion of this document walks through that. So again, the first bullet point is what I mentioned about adding the prohibition on sale starting January 1st, 2023 in the city of Chicago. That is similar to what some other states that have this requirement have done to back up the obligation. For non-owner occupied units, we're also increasing the existing fines and penalties that apply for failing to provide a working smoke alarm. And again, there are these provisions that have been designed to make sure that this does not have a undue burden or a negative impact on owner occupied units where they are trying to do the right thing and providing any type of working smoke alarm in their units. So again, making sure that penalties do not fall on owner occupants is one of the big changes. The bottom part of this screen of this one-page document again emphasizes how the ordinance works overall. It's going to apply when an existing removable battery-powered smoke alarm stops working or reaches the end of its useful life. So this is not going to require everyone to go throw out working smoke alarms today, but smoke alarms do have a useful life of 10 years. And if you look at the back of, if you have battery-powered smoke alarms at home, if you look at the back of them, they do have a good through date on the back of them. As I also pointed out, since 1984, hardwired smoke alarms have been required in new construction. So buildings built after that date have a different style of smoke alarm. They also have a backup battery in them if there's a power failure, but they get their primary power from the building electrical system. And then there's some other little notes on there about some other enhancements we've had for smoke alarms over time in terms of their reliability.
All right, I see Alderman Beal's hand is up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just have one quick question. You know, I'm just trying to refresh my memory. If my memory, fails me, please I apologize. But is this the same ordinance that we passed with the objection or non-input of the fire department the first go round? Is this the same ordinance?
It is, but we have our fire commissioner on next. Would you like to hear from him?
I would, because I'm just curious, because I remember when this came up the last
Right.
time, the fire department didn't testify, they weren't in support of it, and here we are again today.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, Alderman Villegas, I'd like to respond to my colleague, Alderman Beal.
Okay. Gil, you want to respond before we hear from the fire commissioner? or what?
I thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Alderman Beal. And I think what I heard loud and clear from my colleagues, although it passed the committee, was that you wanted to get some input from the fire department and make some changes. And so, again, the ordinance had passed, but I listened to my colleagues because you wanted to make some changes to it. And so as a result, I worked closely with the Chicago Fire Department as well as Department of Buildings to make the modification. So there is a substitute here, and Commissioner Ford is here to testify on behalf of the ordinance. So thank you again for your input, Alderman Beal.
No, thank you for working with the fire department, who are our lifeline when it comes to public safety. So I do thank you for working with them. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. So let's hear from our fire commissioner, Richard Ford II. Commissioner.
Well, good morning, all, and thank you for allowing me to partake in this. What we discussed with the building department is not what this is, and I would not agree with this. Our discussion with the building department was that for residential units, we would go with the 10-year smoke detectors. This is not what we discussed or I agreed to.
Motion to hold this ordinance, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Alderman Villegas, are you comfortable with holding it in committee?
Yeah, of course. And so, yes. And so we're going to go ahead and hold it. I'm going to have another meeting with the mayor's office as well as the commissioner and Department of Buildings to kind of figure out where there was a miscommunication, because obviously there was a lot of meetings that took place. My understanding is that the commissioner was in favor of this, but obviously he's testifying that he's not. And so as a result, we'll go ahead and just have that discussion privately to kind of figure out how to move forward from here, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Thank you, Gil. Raymond Lopez, your hand is up. Is this on the issue or?
If you're gonna hold it, then I'm fine.
All right. So the request is to hold it in committee, and it will be held. So let's move on. Going out of order, the next item up is a direct introduction. This is an ordinance extending the authorized temporary zoning use in response to COVID-19. We have Christine Riley from the Department of Family and Support Services here to speak on the ordinance. And I know since it affects Alderman King, she's on the call, and we're going to hear from Alderman King before we open it up to questions from committee members. All right, so Christine Riley, please.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm the Director of Homeless Prevention Policy and Planning with the City of Chicago's Department of Family and Support Services. Since the pandemic have begun, we set up alternate shelter locations throughout the city of Chicago because we had to decompress our shelter system. And initially we set up 5 locations. Now we have 2 locations, one being in Alderman King's Ward at Young Women's Leadership Academy. Um, because of the decompression, we in guidance through guidance by the Chicago Department of Public Health, we do need to extend our time at Young Women's Leadership Academy because our shelter system is still in decompression mode. So we're just requesting, with the support of Alderman King, to extend the Primo Center, which is the agency our delegate agency who is now managing the shelter, to continue to run all women's shelter in the ward. And I believe the extension is until July 1st. So, but again, we are continuing to receive guidance from the Chicago Department of Public Health in regards to standing up the last 2 additional alternate shelter locations that we have. Are there any questions?
Questions for the department?
Hands are up.
And that is Alderman Lopez.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Ms. Riley, for being here this morning with us. Just a couple quick questions. These were the shelters that we instituted as related to the COVID, to the pandemic, correct? Like the emergency shelters?
Yes, yes, they are.
And we are eliminating a few and extending a few others, correct?
We actually eliminated 3 last year. We were able to find additional beds within our current shelter system. So now we have 2 200-bed facilities, one for single men and one for single women. So the other locations were in YMCAs as well as Salvation Army sites.
Correct. So the question that I have is that, we've seen, especially not just with COVID, but as of late, with the extreme cold weather and, 4,800 inches of snow that we got in the last 10 days, we've seen where the need for sheltering has actually expanded, so much so that 2 of our colleagues here opened up their basements to help people. Why would we be closing shelter opportunities even a little bit when clearly we need to expand them during some of these trials that we're dealing with?
Well, the shelter operations at the other 3 locations closed earlier on in the year last year, around June. So we're asking for, with this ordinance, to extend the 200-bed shelter that we have in Alderman King's Ward at Young Women. So we're not asking to close that.
So is there a possibility of re-engaging? I know you said we're decompressing, but shouldn't we be expanding our network at the moment?
Well, right now, it's in regards to funding as well, and where the funding lies that we have. So the goal is to continue to see once currently we have homeless providers partnering in our shelter system, providing with healthcare workers. There's a shelter-based service team initiative that the Chicago Department of Public Health have implemented, and they're now vaccinating residents within the shelter system. So the goal is to recompress our shelter system at some point. So to bring those beds back online. So that's the goal. So yes, we will be opening up additional beds once we get the go ahead from CDPH.
Okay.
Yes. So the goal is not to continue to decompress, no, but we're just asking with this ordinance if we can continue to have Young Women's Leadership Academy in Alderman King's Ward.
Awesome. Well, I definitely in support of that, and I'm thankful that Alderman King is supportive, and would encourage you to look at other opportunities throughout the city, our ward, my ward included, to expand that network, because it's clearly needed throughout all neighborhoods. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Osterman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Riley, I appreciate your leadership on this, and appreciate Alderwoman King being able to have this in her ward. Following up on Alderman Lopez, I think that the need is only going to grow given the economics of COVID and the lifting of the, at some point in the future, the lifting of the eviction moratorium. Prior to COVID, the shelter structure, whether it's city funded, city managed, privately managed, was unstable, to put it kindly. What I'm going to ask you, because I know that your department's going through a transition and losing a great leader, but you're going to stick around to be with us all. We're glad that you are. There needs to be more shelters, and the city has to lean into this. We can't wait. And we are going to get continued federal money in the short term, but now is the time to be logistically planning out locations around the city that might be vacant because of COVID or some other reason, but we need to prepare now. So I think the members of this committee and the Housing and Real Estate Committee and other members, we need a plan in place that we can't wait. So just I'll follow up with you, but I think my colleagues feel the same way. We have more issues coming, and even today we have problems. So now is the time to step into this and let's get the spaces and get them funded. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Alderman Osterman. And also, the goal especially with the CARES Act funding that we have received, is to put more money in funding into permanent housing and more affordable housing on the back end. So that when people do enter shelter, they can quickly, get the temporary assistance that they need and then move on to more permanent housing on the back end. So we are working to try and get people, and if there's more affordable housing in your wards, please let us know.
So I support that, but I also know that we're in crisis, and I think that we see more people that are on the street and under viaducts, and we need to make sure that there's a potential, unfortunately, that more people may go into homelessness. So we just need the spaces that we can manage, and I think the current infrastructure is not meeting the mark of what we need to do to help people. So I'll follow up with you about that. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Alderman Patel.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to just support Alderman King in this ordinance, and to also support Alderman Osterman's point and suggest that we begin to look also at a number of vacant schools that we have in our community as potential locations for homeless housing, more permanent housing. So I just wanted to put that on your plate, Ms. Riley.
Thank you very much, Alderman.
Right. All right. Alderman King. Sophia?
I think you have Alderman Kappelman with.
I'm sorry, I missed. Okay. I'll do Alderman Kappelman and then Alderman King. Alderman Kappelman.
Thank you. I also want to build on what Alderman Osterman and Alderman Dow have said. And besides looking at schools, there's a number of Roman Catholic churches that are consolidating, and there's with that rectories and convents. So it might also be worthwhile exploring the use of, especially convents and rectories, as places for either transitional or permanent housing for those experiencing homelessness. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Alderman King.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, so just a few words. I've heard a lot of people talk about supporting the homeless and, making sure that we are forward thinking. But most people are, kind of not in my backyard, right? When it comes to all of that. I know that administration was having a hard time even finding a site for a temporary location for the congregate settings, and they got a lot of NIMBYs, not in my backyard. And so the Fourth Ward welcomed them into our community. It didn't come without challenges, but I will say that under Ms. Riley's leadership and Commissioner Butler, that they brought in the Primo Center and who managed it very well after a couple meetings with our community members and talking to them and trying to understand, what their concerns were, and really kind of embracing them. So, while we're saying, that we need to have more consideration for the homeless and our most vulnerable residents, we also can't say not in my backyard. We have to figure out, how we all can, live together. Housing, I believe, is a human right, and affordable housing and housing for our most vulnerable is really important. And as leaders, I think we've got to take um, a leadership role in understanding that it may not be the most convenient thing, but it is the right thing to do to welcome all types of housing into our community. And so we're happy to continue to support uh, these women and families who I also want to, point out, Ms. Riley and your team, what you guys are doing to find permanent housing is really great. I don't know if you had an opportunity to share that, but that's what you've been doing for. How many folks have you guys had found permanent housing for?
Yes, it's approximately, since we've been there in September and under the leadership of Primo, we've housed approximately 50 women and families through our expedited housing initiative.
So I, really appreciate, my hat goes off to you. And I just want to thank you for listening to our community and their concerns and really taking them seriously and being proactive about mitigating them. And so, again, we welcome you into the community, and we've learned a lot in the community from you as well, and from, having those women and families there. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Alderman King, and thank you for your support.
Thank you, Alderman. Any more questions from committee members? If not, can I get a motion? Move to pass on the item.
So moved by
Motion to
Alderman Moore.
pass, Cardona.
Alderman David Moore moves to pass on the ordinance by the last most favorable roll call of the Committee on Zoning. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. Now we're to the regular order. We have a text amendment, document number 2021-460, an amendment of the Municipal Code Section 17-060400 regarding planned manufacturing districts in Section 1709-0100 by modifying language regarding daycare facilities. We have a substitute ordinance to consider. Can I get a motion to accept the substitute as amended by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum?
Alderman Hopkins so moves.
Alderman Hopkins moves to accept the substitute. Hearing no objection, it's so ordered. And this is Alderman Hopkins' ordinance, correct? Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. So, Brian, would you like to speak on the ordinance, please?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This ordinance amends the PMD code to permit slightly larger daycare centers than what was originally contemplated when the first planned manufacturing district was created back in 1988. At the time, daycare centers tended to be much smaller than they are today. So the restriction that was imposed on them in terms of their operating floor plates was 4,500 square feet. This ordinance allows for up to 12,000 square feet in PMD buffer zones. Still requires a special use, so you would have to go to ZBA for permission to operate that daycare center. But we think in today's world, it's very difficult to find a daycare center operating in any commercial area that is that small. Also, this ordinance prohibits daycare centers that operate in PMDs from having outdoor play areas for obvious reasons. If you're in a PMD, chances are you're near some type of industrial use that might have some environmental concerns or might have some air pollution issues. You don't want the kids outside. I can tell you as a father of a 5-year-old, indoor play areas are not what they used to be back in 1988. We are so far beyond ball pits today. Indoor play areas are very sophisticated. If you see one, you'll wish that you had that when you were a kid. But they can't fit in 4,500 square feet. So it makes sense to allow for a larger daycare center. At the same time, we're requiring daycare centers in PMDs to have indoor play areas. This is something that I'm not aware of any opposition to. I have several daycare centers operating in PMDs in my ward that would be compliant under this. So I would urge an aye vote.
All right, questions for the alderman? Patrick Murphy, anything else you want to add on this?
No, sir, that covers it.
Okay. All right, then I need no more questions, and I need a motion to pass on the ordinance.
Move to pass.
Alderman Hopkins moves to pass on the ordinance.
Cardona moves to pass.
Was that Alderman Cardona also?
Felix is too late.
All right. Well, Alderman Hopkins moves to pass on the, I'm sorry, last minute. Is it Alderman Rodriguez? Is it to be recognized for the quorum or what?
You got it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. All right, back to the motion made by Alderman Hopkins. All those in favor of the ordinance?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
There's an opposition there? So I didn't hear, let me rephrase it. Okay. So Alderman Hopkins makes the motion to pass by the last most favorable roll call of the Committee on Zoning. Any opposed? Hearing any objections to that? I'll say it again. Okay. So hearing none, the ordinance is passed as amended. All right.
Chairman, you're on mute.
Okey doke. Moving on, we have 3 mayoral appointments to consider today. The appointments resumes have been included in your packet. And we'll start with the first is A 2021-20, the reappointment of Gabriel Ignacio Zekovitz. And I'll let him pronounce that properly. This is for the Landmark Commission. So, Gabrielle?
Good morning.
Could you restate your name? Because I think I butchered it.
Sure. Gabriel Ignacio Jakevich. Good morning. Thank you, Chairman Tunney and members of the Commission of Zoning, Landmarks, and Building Standards. My name is Gabriel Ignacio Jakevich. I'm honored to come before you today to seek your confirmation for my appointment by Mayor Lightfoot to the Commission on Chicago Landmarks and to serve as Vice Chair. A little about me, I am a proud Chicago native. I originally grew up in the Lakeview community in the 1980s. I've lived in Albany Park for about 10 years, and I'm currently living in the Old Irving Park neighborhood. I'm a student of architecture. I'm a second-generation architect and owner of the Chicago-based design firm Design Bridge, located in Westtown. As a firm, our work encompasses many Chicago neighborhoods, from the furthest north to neighborhoods in the southeast and west parts of the city, with work ranging from multifamily, senior, and affordable housing, to working with not-for-profits and community-based projects of different types and scales, including new buildings, renovation, and preservation projects. Our work is vast, which is what I love about architecture. Outside of my professional practice, I also serve as a board member of HACIA, which is the Hispanic American Construction Industry Association, a not-for-profit organization with a rich history in the city that is formed to advocate for equity and inclusion for minority and women-owned businesses in the design and construction industry. I also serve as the chair of the organization's Sustainability Committee, a committee designed to bring further awareness to our members to issues around sustainability and practice policy and initiatives within the city. I have been honored to serve the city on the Commission of Chicago Landmarks for a little over 5 years, to be involved with designating and reviewing some of the city's most sacred buildings and places, and seeing the great impact, pride, and awareness that these designations can have on a neighborhood in our city as a whole is something that I take great pride in. As part of this reappointment, I plan to build on my experience, utilizing the knowledge I've gained over the years, always seeking to learn and to listen first to all perspectives, with the perspective of the alderman holding great weight as an elected representative of your respective communities. And I look forward to working together to highlight and protect our city's rich heritage. Serving the city has been one of the greatest honors of my life, and I'm very excited about the opportunity to continue this work. Thank you for your time and consideration, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Gabrielle. Do we have questions on this reappointment? Hearing no, I see no hands up. Can I get a motion to pass on this, affirm this appointment by the same
Alderman
roll call that
Hopkins,
was
so
used to
moves.
determine quorum?
Alderman Villegas.
Hopkins moves the motion. Any objections to that motion? Hearing no objections. Congratulations, Gabrielle. And maybe by the next term, I'll get that last name correct. So
Thank you, Chairman.
appreciate
Thank you,
your
committee.
service also.
Thank you.
All right. Just gonna, the next, let me keep moving here. All right. Next is the appointment of Alicia Ponce as a member of the Commission on Chicago Landmarks. Alicia.
Hello, good morning. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. There you are. Okay.
Yes. Good morning, everyone. My name is Alicia Ponce, and I am honored to have been considered to serve in the Chicago Landmarks Commission. In the last couple of days, I reached out to everyone in the zoning committee to introduce myself, and I had the pleasure of connecting with some of you over the phone or via email. I'd like to reiterate that I'm excited at this opportunity to serve on this commission. I look forward to collaborating with the zoning committee and fellow commissioners. Some of you have already asked how I came about this position and what is my understanding of serving on this commission, followed by several warm and welcoming congratulations. So I thank you once again. First, it's always been a dream of mine to be an architect. Second, I grew up with an innate connection and respect for nature. So it just became natural that I brought those two passions together. Third, I founded my firm AP Monarch almost 14 years ago with the intent to design healthy buildings and equitable communities. It's work that I truly enjoy, and over the years, I've built relationships with colleagues in the design and building industry, as well as in academia. I believe as architects, we have the tools, the resources, and opportunity to lead and create healthy environments. I feel really lucky to work in the city of Chicago, where we set the bar high in many aspects for other cities to follow. We are working on the decarbonization of existing buildings. I believe this happens through collaboration and listening, and that's what I intend to do on this commission. Being a mother of 2 young children adds an extra meaningful value to this type of work. And I definitely have the time to reflect on this during the pandemic and e-learning. Prior to starting my business, I worked at large firms in the city where I worked on projects like Shakespeare Theater, McCormick Place, and Northwestern Memorial Hospital. As a firm owner, I've led my firm of architects and sustainability professionals to work on many different projects throughout the city, like Erie Family Health, St. Augustine College, Exelon, the Field Museum, and Chicago Public Schools, as well as the University of Chicago. We've worked with the public and private sectors and have had the opportunity to offer our services as architects, sustainability consultants, and bilingual community engagement consultants. I hope that my career trajectory has offered you some insight on how and why I was considered to serve on this commission. I'm here to seek your confirmation. Once again, I'm honored and excited, and I'm here to listen. Thank you.
Thank you, Alicia. And do we have any questions from committee members? Yeah, Michael Rodriguez.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on Ms. Ponce being someone we've worked with on a number of projects and being absolutely collaborative and a real listener and a person who understands the city from A to Z. I totally respect her perspective and couldn't think of a better candidate here and has my full support. Thank you for being here, Ms. Ponce.
Thank you, Alderman.
Thank you. I do not see other hands up, but before I ask for a motion, I wanted to, looking at your resume, Alicia, I haven't had the opportunity to work with you, but I'm very, very much impressed with your background, and I know you'll be a great asset to the Landmark Commission. So, and your testimony validates that also. So I'm going to, if there's no more questions by committee members, do I hear a motion to move to pass by the same roll call that was used to establish quorum?
Riley, so moved.
Alderman Riley moves to pass. Any objections to that motion? Hearing none, the item is passed. All right, we have one more appointment, and that's A2021-22, the reappointment of Ernest C. Wong as a member of the Commission on Landmarks. Ernie, you are no stranger to City Council, so would you like to say a few words in front of the committee?
Thank you, Chairman Tunney, and thank you, all the members of the Committee on Zoning, Landmarks, and Building Standards. This is a wonderful opportunity. My name is Ernie Wong. I'm an urban designer and a landscape architect based here in Chicago. I'm a lifelong Chicagoan, born in Michael Reese Hospital and grew up in Hyde Park. I've actually lived all over the city, from Wrigleyville to Tom, in your ward, to Alderman Banks's ward. I just wanted to say that I'm honored and I'm humbled by this opportunity to serve the city of Chicago in this capacity of chair of the Commission on Chicago Landmarks. The work that the commission, and more importantly, the city staff, has improved and evolved the city into a rich heritage of architectural gems. Last year, we landmarked the Emmett Till and Mamie Mobley House in Woodlawn, saving this important structure that was a childhood home of the spark of the civil rights movement. The old post office was a behemoth that sat empty for years, scarring the gateway to Chicago from the west when we landmarked that. And the adaptive reuse of that has really made an important step in the rebuilding of Chicago. And there's so much more to be done. 8 years ago, the Wrigley building was not even landmarked. And so, when we look at all of these buildings and these districts throughout Chicago that play such an important part in the history of Chicago, I think it's so important that the Chicago Landmarks Commission, much like the similar commissions in other great American cities, are the stewards of the city's history. We recognize our role in helping our cities grow and flourish. I look forward to working with all of you to assist in doing that. And in improving the quality of life as we make Chicago flourish. I thank you, and I hope that you will ratify my appointment, and I really appreciate this opportunity to continue to work with the City of Chicago at this important capacity. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wong. Do we have questions from committee members? Alderman David Moore. David?
Yes, he's a smart man. Anybody that mentions that they were born in Michael Reese is all right with me. So motion move to pass.
I don't see other hands. So Alderman David Moore makes the motion to move to pass by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum. Any objections to that motion? Hearing no objections, this confirmation is In the ayes have it, and then will be reported out at Wednesday's city council meeting. Okay, so we need to press the reset button on the fire alarm ordinance. I believe we have Commissioner Ford back on, and I think he would like to talk about the ordinance. Again, maybe he was looking at a different version, but let's get Commissioner Ford on and hear from our fire commissioner. Again, we're back to the smoke alarm ordinance that was, the substitute was moved and re-referred. We're back on the agenda. All right. Commissioner Ford. Commissioner, I think you need to unmute yourself.
And point of information, Chairman, Alderman Lopez.
Alderman Lopez.
While we wait for the commissioner, we are talking about the substitute ordinance that we just accepted.
That I held. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Ford, I think you need to unmute yourself. I know you're on the call.
Who are you calling for?
Commissioner Ford. My camera off. He's unmute. I think he has got technical difficulties. We're going to have to move on. All right. Now, what are we doing here? Okay. So next on the agenda, we have a text amendment document number 020206185, an amendment to the municipal code section 17-2-0207 regarding special use approval, prohibited uses and parking standards for cultural exhibits and libraries located within various residential districts by Alderman Sophia King. My understanding is there's a substitute that was, I believe, was not introduced, but I'm going to ask Sophia King to get on the line here. Sophia, you want to talk about this ordinance?
I'm here, Chairman.
Yeah. On the original ordinance, I think we'll start with that. I have not received a substitute.
Yeah, you should have a substitute. Patrick has a substitute. It's. Do you want to understand what that is?
Well, let's start with the original and then let's see how it evolved. And then we'll see. I think the substitute I had required special use in all districts. And so let's.
No, the substitute is prohibited in residential.
In
RS1, 2, and 3.
That would be a prohibition.
Can I speak to this now, or are you?
Yeah, no, the floor is yours. And just for the, I think what we need to do is just start where we in the original introduction, and then I'll make sure that the substitute is, unless you want the substitute to be introduced by a committee member, but I'm not sure that committee members have seen the substitute.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a couple committee members who would do that. So, but I'm happy to talk about it.
Yeah, I think it's kind of for a lot of us, and not me, but for a lot of the committee members, let's get an understanding of the intent. Okay.
Yeah. So, before you for your consideration is a substitute ordinance that would make basically museums not as of right in residential neighborhoods. This was something that neither building commissioner knew, neither the previous building commissioner nor the current building commissioner knew was as of right. But just think about this. you can, as of right, turn a residential home into a museum without any consideration. You can add a gift shop to it if you'd like. You can have hundreds of people show up every day. And I just want to have a community process for something like that. So currently, as I said, it's as of right. I found out, kind of the hard way that it is. And I'm just trying to correct something that I think most people don't realize. There are several currently about 4 museums in the entire city of Chicago that are in residential neighborhoods. But most, if not all of those, are on arterial streets on the outskirts of a residential neighborhood. They're not smack right in the middle of the block. And so we all know, what can happen if that happens. If someone opens up a museum as of right, you've got and it's an attraction. You've got people coming into the neighborhoods. They don't have to provide parking, so you don't have to provide parking. There are no other considerations for quality of life in the neighborhood. And oh, by the way, you can, turn it into a nonprofit and take it off the tax roll. And so I think these are all unintended consequences. Like I said, all of the existing ones that are here currently are in RS, they're all on the outskirts of residential neighborhoods. Most of them aren't attractions, and they're all on arterial streets. And so this is just something that I feel shouldn't be as of right. Intuitively, like I said, the building commissioners had no idea. The administration had no idea. People who worked in the office had no idea that museums were as of right, and that you can come into a neighborhood and basically just turn your house into a museum and not without any other consideration. So I'm just asking that there be a community process, that aldermen are involved. I understand that there are homes throughout the city that perhaps should be turned into a museum, but I think the community should have input via the aldermen through that, and that this shouldn't be something that just happens because somebody decides, they want to turn their home into a museum, and that they can do that. And by the way, also have a gift shop and not have parking available for hundreds of people who are going to show up. And so, yeah, I would like for you all to, I'm hoping to get your favorable approval of that, and happy to take questions.
Thank you, Alderman. Just in terms of the record, in the packets that that our committee members have the substitute that has special use in all our districts. So that was already sent to committee members. Your narrative today is a substitute of the substitute that would prohibit those in R1, 2, and 3. Is that correct?
Yeah, so the substitute that you're talking about is the one that the administration, wanted. And I know Michelle has been lobbying, my colleagues to, not to defer it and what have you. And I know she's got a rich, donor who wants to turn his home into a museum.
Well, we're going to hear from
yeah, well,
Alderwoman
don't,
Smith.
I just want to
make
make everything clear. And so the substitute is the one that I put
Point
in.
of personal privilege.
Wait.
Consideration for, it to be.
Okay. He's muted.
Point of personal privilege.
Okay, wait a second. Alderman King, I think I didn't hear your last sentence because I think you went on mute yourself.
No, you muted me, or somebody muted me. I didn't mute myself.
Oh, maybe it was our error. I'm sorry. But your last sentence again before I'll ask Alderman Smith to.
Yeah, so it's, yeah, my substitute is to have it prohibited in, as of right, in residential neighborhoods. It won't impact homes that are already, existing. Obviously, they would be grandfathered, but like I said, all of those are on arterial streets. They're not impacting the middle of a block of residential homes. Those are slightly different, but they
Okay.
wouldn't be impacted.
All right, thank you. Alderman Michelle Smith on a point of personal privilege.
Yes. I have never in my history as alderman been accused of doing a favor for a donor.
All right, well,
So
we're
I
gonna.
just want to be clear about that.
Yeah, we are gonna, your hand was up too.
And I'm also
Okay.
going to say that, and so I'd like to return the debate, and I'm asking for this to be deferred for a couple of reasons.
Okay, well, we have, okay, I get it, Michelle. I'm gonna ask Alderman Beal, his hand was up first. And then we'll get back to you if you wanna renew your motion. All right, Alderman Beal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just have a couple of quick questions because this is an issue that is very important to me here. Are we, Alderman King, were you talking, speaking to the substitute, or were you speaking to the original?
Yeah, no, I was speaking to the substitute would prohibit museums in residential neighborhoods as of right.
As of right, okay.
Obviously, museum is a big undertaking. If that's something that an alderman wanted, they could certainly get it by spot zoning or, but most of these, honestly, I've done all this research, they're not in residential neighborhoods. What's come to light is that you can do it. I mean, you literally can just wake up, decide to have a museum in your home, and as of right, have a museum, not provide parking for anybody. You can have a gift shop, and you can invite hundreds of people to come in every day. And you can understand how that may disrupt the community. I just want the community to be involved in that process.
I get that. I get that, and I appreciate that. But I do have one that is in a residential community in my ward. And so I was just curious on if they're non-conforming, and maybe this is a question for the zoning administrator, if they're non-conforming, are they still grandfathered in?
So they are grandfathered in, but I don't have yours down as, you don't have a museum in your ward existing.
Yes, I do.
In an RS, which one is it? I'm sorry.
It's the A. Philip Randolph Pullman Porter Museum.
But it's not in an RS 1, 2, or 3.
It has to be because it was a residential piece of property.
Yeah, they gave me a list of all of the.
Well, that's probably because it's non-conforming, so it wouldn't be on their radar, and that's why I'm asking the question.
Yeah, if it's already non-conforming.
Yeah.
Then I can't speak to that, but I don't have it down as.
Okay. Well,
They're only like 3 or 4.
All right, so if we can talk offline on this one, and also the zoning administrator, if you can call me after this meeting to talk about that as well.
I would
All
like
right.
to. I'd be happy to.
Well, wait, now hold on. Patrick, I want you to, well, let's, you heard Alderman King.
Yes.
The substitute that's in the packet is not what she would like to move forward today based on her narrative. Now, we have not accepted the substitute of the substitute, okay? So what, for the benefit, and we've heard from Alderman King and we'll hear from her again, but the substitute that is in the packet, would you discuss that for the committee members?
I can do both, but I can do both.
Answer
I wanted to back up.
Alderman Beal's question too.
Yeah, I wanted to back up for his question first. So I think there's a little bit of confusion. So first of all, the list of museum uses that we have are restricted to those that are in any R district. But Alderman Beal, if you have one that we missed on our list, or that's in a different zoning district, like say it's in a B zoning district, for instance, it would still be permitted and it wouldn't be impacted by this ordinance. If it is in an R district, and if we did miss it on our list, it wouldn't become non-conforming under the current substitute. It would become a legal special use. However, If it's in an RS 1, 2, or 3, under the new substitute that the Alderman's talking about this morning, then it would become a non-conforming museum use. But I can follow up with you separately to figure out those details. There's just a subtle nuance between the differences.
That's fine. We can
So-
talk offline.
Okay,
Sure.
all right,
So then Alderman Tunney,
go on.
Chairman Tunney, do you want me to
Yes,
Do you want me to talk about, okay, so the substitute of the substitute, Alderman King and I spoke about a few hours ago. It would remove from RS 1s, 2s, and 3s, the single family home districts, any use related to a museum, cultural center. So it would be prohibited in those 3 districts. It would remain as a special use in all the other RT and RS districts. I'm sorry, RT and RM districts, sorry.
all right. So we haven't accepted any substitute other than the original ordinance. I'll entertain that. But I know Alderwoman Michelle Smith had her hand up. Was that a question on the original ordinance, or any narrative that you've heard so far about special use or prohibited in Rs 1, 2, and 3?
Yes, it is. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I have to say that while I understand the problem here, I'm going to ask that the substitute be deferred and that we hold this in committee for several reasons. First of all,
No, before you get there, you're not a committee member. We're welcome to hear your testimony.
Thank you. And I'd like to ask the help of colleagues to defer this for several reasons. First of all, no one in the museum community has been consulted with regard to this ordinance. And I've never seen a case in city council where people who actually have an interest in a matter don't get a voice. Secondly, my ward has the most, well, and secondly, with regard to the list of house museums, which I've seen, it has to be incomplete because there is no such list. House museums are not really regulated. There's a little trade association of house museums, but unless people really did a search, I'm sure that there are others maybe in your own ward. So just to give you an example, in my ward, on Astor Street itself, which I think most people know is a very residential street, is the Charnley Persky House. The Graham Foundation is next door on Burton Place. Other examples of house museums are the International Museum for Surgical Science on Lakeshore Drive, the Old Town Triangles Gallery and Art Classes, that's also in my ward, the Roger Brown Study Collection, which is on Halsted Street, it's part of the Museum of Contemporary Art, the Graham Foundation on Burton Place, the Edgewater Historical Society, the Norwood Park Historical Society, the Roby House in Hyde Park, and maybe some of their other museums. Today, museums are permitted uses in our districts, and I believe that we are threatening the development of cultural institutions in our ward by this ordinance. 6018 North on Kenmore, the Bronzeville Historical Society, Wrightwood 659 on Wrightwood Street, which is absolutely a residential area. The Theaster Gates Rebuild Foundation on Dorchester, the Jane Addams Hull House, the Emil Bach House on Sheridan, the Ridge Historical Society, the Jean and Paul Harris Home Foundation, the Pilgrim Baptist Church, I understand is a planned reuse, and someday the Emmett Till and Mamie Till Mobley House. The vast majority of these are in fact on residential streets. And I can speak from 40 years of experience of living in my community that these are wonderful additions to communities. And if you have the opportunity to have one, you are very lucky. They are not the kind of attractions like the Museum of Science and Industry that brings thousands of people. They are generally small. They don't get a PPA. I think that if you're concerned in your one's ward about parking and it's on a residential street, impose residential permit parking and that problem would be solved. I'm also concerned about this ordinance for a couple real big reasons of zoning policy. First of all, by definition, these are houses. So they are always the birthplace of somebody or a wonderful charitable donation. The Junior League is another example. They're not even on this list, and they're also on Astor Street. They're a wonderful example and opportunities to save often historic homes that have a cultural purpose that maybe wasn't recognized like we just did with the Emmett Till House. On the other hand, we passed sweeping Airbnb regulation that made Airbnbs permitted as of right in an awful lot of districts. And Airbnbs, which we all know have caused parties and problems for us, those are as of right, but someone who wants to open a small museum to honor someone, they will need a special use. I can just speak, I appreciate that neighbors are always concerned about parking. I get it. However, we have experience of probably since the zoning code began of allowing this as a permitted use, and I don't know why we would want to impose greater regulation on something that is generally a public good. Schools are allowed in residential neighborhoods, and we all know that if that wasn't the case, we would have neighbors opposing schools because of parking problems. I also am very concerned that in the times when we are trying to be much more open about our government and more equal, that we are making something as generally inconsequential as a house museum subject to a special use. I'm very uncomfortable that this is an attempted expansion of aldermanic prerogative, which maybe we will all like, but I don't think all of us would. So I am asking this committee that because, frankly, the museum community knows nothing about this, that we be allowed to defer this for a time when we perhaps can have a larger conversation about this as an industry. I think many of our colleagues are even unaware that they have these in their ward and that they're separately, that they are the subject of any kind of regulation or not. And I think that it would be only fair to allow the group of people who are most impacted by this to have a voice here. So I am not a member of the committee, but I'm asking that we simply defer this so we can have a larger conversation at a later time.
Point of clarification, Chairman.
All right. Alderman King on a point of clarification.
Yeah, so she named a bunch of museums, all of which are great and not, but they're not in RS 1, 2, or 3. And so I just want to speak to facts. I can send those. There are only about 4 existing. I've called those aldermen that would be impacted, but they also would be grandfathered into this. So you're right. There are a lot of great museums, but all the ones you named aren't in a residential neighborhood. There are 4, and even those 4 are on arterial streets in those residential neighborhoods. And so, while I love the soliloquy, we just have to stick to facts. And Michelle, you came to me beforehand and you told me exactly why you wanted to preserve this right. And so you're being disingenuous.
Okay, and I'm going to ask.
Tell you about our
Sophia,
conversation.
Sophia, I'm going to hold. I'm going to move to Alderman Lopez on this. Alderman Lopez.
Thank you, Chairman. For once, I'm not the one fighting in a committee. But I think the discussion is well worth the effort. And I personally, as much as Alderman Smith, would like the committee to entertain her motion. I think we should hear from what you have a past precedent of deferring to the introducing alderman. And I think if Alderman King is prepared to move forward, then we should move forward. I think using catchphrases like expanding aldermanic prerogative is very much disingenuous to the conversation, particularly when in that same comment, you're talking about the inability to control Airbnbs in one's own ward because you don't have the opportunity of control. Our colleague made the greatest defense as to why we need to move forward, because without our input, things get out of hand, as they have in Lincoln Park and other neighborhoods that have been inundated by Airbnbs. So I want to thank my colleague for proving Alderman King's point that you have to have regulation, that you have to be involved, and that we have to know. And I, for one, would like to have this matter addressed today. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman Scott Wagasback.
Thanks, Chairman. You had mentioned that we hadn't accepted the substitute of a substitute.
We have not. We have the only thing that's in front of the committee is the original ordinance that Alderman Sophia King introduced. In the packet was a proposed substitute that required special use in all our districts for museums. And then, as Sophia King and Patrick Murphy has said, they've had discussions about in our districts 1, 2, and 3, they would be prohibited. Those that are already there, and if they're registered and licensed, would be grandfathered in, so to speak. If they weren't, if we accepted the substitute of the substitute, they would be prohibited specifically in ours 1, 2, and 3, other than those that were already registered.
Okay.
Mr.
Well,
Chairman, I got a point of clarification.
Oh, wait, okay, point
Go
of
ahead.
clarification on Vice Chair Raboyes.
Before we get into an argument on this matter, why don't we just defer this and discuss it later?
Well, I'm gonna need a motion to do that. I believe that
Chairman.
there's more work to be done on myself as the chair of this. With all due respect, this ordinance is a citywide ordinance, and we have Alderman King as the sponsor, but the effect would be citywide.
Point of clarification, Chairman.
Oh, Alderman.
The museum thing.
Before I get there, before I get to Alderman King, okay, Vice Chair Raboyes, are you finished? You want
No, I
to
just see if we can
defer
defer this
this?
matter.
Okay.
That's correct.
Okay, you are a committee member, but before we take that, I've got a couple of more hands up from committee members.
Point of order.
Okay, point of order, David.
Was-
David Moore.
Was Alderman Wagasback done because you took
No,
point of
Alderman
clarification?
Wagasback is not done. I'd be happy to move it back to Scott.
Yes, I'll be brief if that's okay.
Okay, Alderman Wagasback.
I was just going to say that I have not had substantive conversations about it either. I do have some historic districts where we do have similar types of locations. So I would say we could accept the substitute of the substitute or dispose of the original substitute somehow, but defer it as well until we can have discussions with some of our organizations. I think that might be affected by this in the future. Thank you.
Alderman Haddon.
I move to accept the substitute of the substitute.
First of all, as the chair, we don't have the substitute in writing. So I don't think the only substitute we have is.
Point of
this-
clarification,
is
Chairman?
it, no, let me finish, okay? In the packet was this, a substitute to Alderman King's ordinance that was special use in all RS districts. Now, Alderman King has talked to Patrick Murphy. I don't have the substitute of the substitute other than the narrative that Alderman King has presented to the committee. So that being said, I'm going to hold on your motion until I hear from the two other hands up, and that is Alderman Rodriguez and then Alderman Riley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think a good debate is always a good idea. So I'm glad that Alderwoman Smith was able to chime in. But I think moving from of rights to more of a community process to me. And I think that Alderman King has explained how she's reached out to the impacted alderpersons. So I'm fine with Alderwoman Haddon's motion. So I just wanted to chime in on that.
Well, all right, Alderman Riley, we do have a motion on the floor to defer.
Point of clarification, that
motion was made by Vice Chair Raboyes.
Well, if there's a motion on the floor, Chairman, then I can't speak in debate, and that's fine. I'll accept that.
All right, so.
Okay.
Well, point of order, please.
Alderman Moore.
Oh, from what I understand, Chairman Wackersback had the floor, and Alderman Rivera was making a point of clarification, and at the time he did not have he didn't have the floor to make a motion because Alderman Scott Wackersback had it, and then Alderman Maria hadn't made her motion.
Thank you.
Yeah, we accepted the motion to defer, and I have a second on the motion to defer because I think we need more time for this ordinances before this introduction that just happened in the last number of minutes.
Point of clarification.
Yeah,
Chair.
point of order there. Can you, Chair, this is Alderwoman Haddon.
Yeah,
Alderman
Haddon.
Yeah, whose motion was accepted for the deferral and who seconded that?
Raboyes made the motion.
But even though he was making a point of order, I didn't hear him make a motion. I heard him suggest an interest in, but several people have suggested an interest in deferring, but I didn't hear him make a motion for that. And I think to Alderman Moore's clarification as well, I would kind of agree with him on where we're at. And then who's the second that you're counting, just out of curiosity?
Here's what I want to do. There's a lot of discussion and healthy discussion, but I do not think we're ready for a vote on this today. So I'm going to ask that this be hold.
Point of clarification before you do that.
I'm going to ask the committee members, my committee members, to hold this in committee because there's a lot of information that came out today and a change on a change that I don't think we're ready to vote on.
Okay. Chairman, just point of clarification.
Yes, Alderman King.
You've had this for 6 months. You have chosen not to bring it to committee and to, I gave it to the administration months ago so that we could have a debate on this, so that we could have a discussion on it. You have chosen not to do that. And so today I think it's disingenuous that, I've been trying to have this process that includes everybody, that includes the community. And now you're saying because, one alderman, has disingenuously suggested that, it would change the world as we see it. No, we're trying to provide more community input. Like I said, 2 sitting commissioners, building commissioners, did not understand that this was as of right. The people who work in their offices did not understand that this is as of right. This has been a 1.5-year process for me trying to figure that out and to find out that it is as of right. And there's only 3 or 4 existing historical or museums that it impacts. I've reached out to those aldermen. I think I've been, pretty transparent. I think I gave the administration months to try and, to bring a conversation. Michelle Smith reached out to me months ago about this and her concerns, which I think, are selfish and disingenuous as well. But, I don't see this as something that, needs to be deferred because of lack of discussion.
All right. Point of information or clarification.
Lots of
order,
information. Really. Yes, David Moore.
Chairman, it's not that I totally oppose what you're recommending. It's just the order of it, and I don't want to set again any precedents here. I mean, if you want to ask Alderwoman Haddon to hold her motion, but to ignore that that motion is on the floor because there was no other motion on the floor. And she made that motion I just don't want that to be set any precedent here.
All right. Thank you, David. I know we have our attorney on the line, Vicky Kraft.
Yes, Alderman, can you hear me?
Yes. Have you heard the discussion and the issue about, first of all?
Well, I have heard the discussion, but the one point that is very unclear to me is whether it sounds like there was an original ordinance, a substitute ordinance, and then Alderman King believed that there was a substitute ordinance as amended before the committee. So every alderman on that committee, in order to be able to vote on the ordinance that Alderman King is interested in having passed, would need to have a copy of an ordinance which is labeled substitute ordinance as amended in front of them right now. And it's not clear to me whether that's the case. We've heard descriptions of what the substitute ordinance as amended would do, but it looks to me that pursuant to Rule 41, it says no committee shall vote on a proposed amendment until and unless a formal amendment complying with the requirements of this paragraph has been prepared and a copy presented to every committee member present. So does every committee member there actually have a physical copy of the substitute ordinance as amended in front of them?
Alderman Riley does not.
And Chairman Tunney does not.
So under those circumstances, the rule says that no vote can occur.
Okay, so here's what I want to do.
So-
What I'm going to do.
Chairman, you could
I'm going
do
to
like-
hold this. I am going to hold this in committee, and we will discuss this at our next zoning committee hearing. All right, we're going to move on. Are we back to the fire commissioner? What? Okay. So where am I at? All right. All right. Okay, we're on bottom of page 10. Back to the direct introductions. We have an amendment to the waterway plan development located at 2424 South Halsted and 2500 South Corbett Street in the 11th Ward. Substitute ordinance to consider. Can I get a motion to accept the substitute ordinance by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum?
So move.
Alderman Beal, I believe, made that motion to accept the substitute hearing. No objection, so ordered. We have Noah Safranik from the Planning Department available to speak on the matter. Noah.
Good afternoon, Chairman and committee members. Thank you. We are submitting this substitute ordinance to rectify a clerical error. Apologies from myself and staff members for that. There were 4 exhibits left off the back end of the packet that was sent to be published. Those consisted of the 4 elevations of the buildings. This ordinance changes nothing other than to amend and add those 4 pages to the final packet.
So Noah, I don't believe we have a substitute. It is a direct introduction. Is that correct?
That's correct, from our team, the planning and development team. And I believe that was sent to the committee.
Okay. Any questions for Noah?
Mr. Chairman, I do have a copy of the substitute. I would move do pass.
Okay, so Alderman Hopkins, well, I don't have any questions. No, okay. So Alderman Hopkins moves do pass by the same roll call that was determined quorum. Any objections to that motion? Hearing none, this item is passed. All right. I want to make sure that I'm okay. All right, the last direct introduction pertains to an amendment to residential business plan development number 1329 for the property generally located at 1050 West Wilson Street, Wilson Avenue, I believe, in the 46th Ward. Do we have a substitute on this?
Yes.
Okay, so we have a substitute on this ordinance. Can I get a motion to accept the substitute as amended by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum?
So moved by Cardona.
Okay, moved by Cardona. Any opposed to that? Hearing none. It's before us. It's not amended. And I know Noah is going to talk about, I believe these are Scrivener's errors in the PD application. And there's no substantive change to the plan development. Noah.
That's correct, Chairman. Thank you. In this scenario, it was slightly different than the other scenario. There were 2 pages of the document that had updated changes related to some of the data on the bulk table and to a revised ARO statement to address Commissioner Novara's concerns at Plan Commission. Those did not make it into the final packet. They are now updated and added here. Nothing is changed that was voted on. The packet still remains as was presented at Plan Commission and voted on at committee.
Questions for the department? I don't see any hands up. Can I get a motion move to pass on this ordinance by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum? I get a motion?
So moved by Cardona.
Moved by Cardona. Any objections to that motion? Hearing none, item is passed. Okay. What do we have now?
Mr. Chairman, point of order.
Okay, hold on a second. I just want to make sure I'm on the script. All right, Alderman Hopkins.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify, is it our intention to get to the smoke detector ordinance at some point today? Or are we going to defer that to a future date?
Well, it was being held. We're waiting to hear back from, we thought we had Commissioner Ford back on to explain his support or lack of support. He wanted to come back and speak to the committee, but I don't think we've connected with him. All right. Now we're moving on to large signs over 100 square feet in area, 24 feet above grade. We'll hear them all together. I'll read the ward followed by the address and take a motion at the end. First sign is located in the 14th Ward at 4130 South Pulaski Road. Next in the 19th Ward is 10101 Southwestern Avenue. In the 25th Ward, 2 signs at 1825 South Blue Island Avenue. Also in the 25th Ward, 2 signs at 2801 South Ashland Avenue. In the 27th Ward, 2 signs at 800 West Fulton Market. Again, in the 27th Ward at 854 West Randolph Street. In the 27th Ward, again at 454 North Walcott Avenue. Moving into the 42nd Ward at 101 East Chicago Avenue. In the 42nd Ward, 2 signs at 661 North Wells Street. Lastly, in the 45th Ward at 3801 North Keeler Avenue. No questions by committee members. Do I get a motion move to pass by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum?
So moved, Chairman. I'll give Felix a break.
Alderman Lopez moves to pass. Any objections? Hearing none, the items are passed. All right. Now we're going to move on to the regular agenda. In order to minimize technical difficulties and to ensure the committee meeting runs as smoothly as possible, that might be a change. We're going to be we're in the typical order in which the items will be heard been updated throughout the duration of virtual committee on zoning meetings. Items will be grouped together according to the witness attorney and will be heard in that order rather than in the ward order. All right. Now, page 1 of the revised agenda, document number A8616, 36th Ward. Ordinance was referred on November 16th of 2020. The common address, 2928, 2932, 2938 through 2960 North Elston. So those addresses are all in Elston. 2905 through 27, 29 through 39, 2939 through 43. Also 2947 and 2957 through 2973. All these items are on Elston Avenue. The change request, RS3 Residential Single Unit Detached House District, RT4 Residential 2-Flat Townhouse and Multi-Unit District, C11 Neighborhood Commercial District, and M12 Limited Manufacturing Business Park District, all to an RT4 Residential 2-Flat Townhouse and Multi-Unit District. Our notes say this is in the 33rd Ward. We have a question from the committee member. Alderman Cardona.
Chairman, when you started, you said 36th Ward. It's actually 33rd Ward.
Oh,
sir.
I'm sorry.
That's
Thank you
okay.
for reminding me. You've been my wingback again, and I just automatically went to 36. I apologize that. But we do know that it was Alderwoman Rosanna Rodriguez Sanchez that introduced the ordinance, and I think she's on the call to speak. Do we have a? All right, well, we don't have it, so we're gonna hold this. If I get a motion to hold this thing, we get. Anybody from 33? We have a representative from Alderman Rosanna Rodriguez Sanchez on the call. Okay, well, I'll get a motion to hold this, please.
Alderman Cardona.
Move to hold.
Alderman Cardona makes a motion to hold. David Moore, do you have a question on this? No, okay. All right, so this item is going to be held until we hear from the 33rd Ward. Next, I want to move to document number A, 8615, 17th Ward. Ordinance was referred on November 16th of 2020. Common address is 1344 through 54 West 79th Street. And the change request is an RS3 Residential Single Unit Detached House District to a B12 Neighborhood Shopping District. Alderman David Moore.
Thank you, Chairman. I come before this committee under two previous administrations ago, actually, when some development was done, especially along the park where we created Renaissance Park along 79th Street. And when they did the changes of the zoning, some commercial buildings was inadvertently, mixed use buildings were inadvertently zoned as residential, and it shouldn't have been. And so we have those businesses have been there for years, and they're mixed use. So I'm just making them the way they should have been in the first place before the error occurred, to bring them back into conformity. And so I'm asking for you all's approval on this. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Alderman. Any questions for Alderman Moore? No questions. Can I get a motion moved to pass by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum?
Move to pass by Alderman Wagasback.
Alderman Wagasback moves to pass on the item. Any objections? Hearing none, the item's passed. Now we're in the bottom of page 1, document number 20610-T1, 47th Ward. Ordinance was referred on January 27th of 21. Common address is 4640 through 4648 Northwestern Avenue. And the change request is a B32 Community Shopping District to a B33 Community Shopping District. And we have Andrew Scott on the application.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Name is Andrew Scott with the Law Offices of Dykema Gossett. I'm here on behalf of the applicant. The subject property is approximately a 7,100 square foot site that's currently improved with a 5-story building and a single-story building. It is right on Western Avenue. It's got proximity to the Western Brown Line station as well as the 49 bus route. So it's a really great TOD location, given the access to public transit. As you had mentioned, the proposal is to rezone the property to B33 Type 1, and assuming approval by this committee and also the granting of certain relief that we're going to need from the ZBA, the applicant will go ahead and they plan to demolish the single-story building, create an addition to the 5-story building that would clear the way for a 23-unit, approximately 60-foot tall building with about 3,000 square feet of commercial space on the ground floor and 5 parking spaces. We've been extensively involved with the community over the past several months in Alderman Martin's office. We've met with the Lincoln Square Chamber of Commerce, who is supportive, the Greater Rockwell Organization, and also the Heart of Lincoln Square. Gotten a lot of good feedback for them on the project, and it's been a very robust community process. And kudos to Alderman Martin for again, just a very strong community process. We did agree as part of the moving forward with this that we would provide, in addition to the 2 required affordable units pursuant to the Affordable Requirements Ordinance, that we would do 2 additional affordable units on site. We have that, we've made that commitment with the alderman. And we're available to answer any questions. We'd appreciate your favorable support.
Thank you, Andrew. Questions for the applicant? We do have a letter of support from Alderman Martin. I don't see any hands up. Can I get a motion move to pass by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum?
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Vice Chair Raboyes makes that motion. Any objections to the motion? Hearing none, the item is passed. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you very much.
Page 2, top of page 2, document number 20611-T1 in the 45th Ward. Ordinance was referred on January 27th of 21. The document number, the common address is 4758 through 4760 North Milwaukee Avenue. Change request is from a B32 community shopping district to a C22 motor vehicle related district. Tyler Manick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Tyler Manick of Shane Banks, Kenny and Schwartz. I'm here on behalf of the applicant, Columbia Care. Since 2016, Columbia Care has operated a medical cannabis dispensary at 4758 North Milwaukee. On January 1st, 2020, Columbia Care commenced adult use cannabis sales at 4758 North Milwaukee. Columbia Care seeks a zoning map amendment from a B32 zoning district to a C22 zoning district in order to allow them to expand their existing dispensary into the next door vacant space at 4760 North Milwaukee. The proposed expansion will allow Columbia Care to enhance their customer experience and manage customer flow, thereby allowing their operations to greatly increase the tax revenues to the city, which would be estimated to over $1 million with this expansion of additional sales taxes to the city. Columbia Care will also be able to add 8 more well-paying jobs with full benefits. Currently, there are more than 50% minority participation at this location in the Columbia Care employment base. While Columbia Care is a publicly traded company, it does have minority participation at its board of directors level. Columbia Care is committed to continued social equity participation in connection with this proposed expansion. Columbia Care also enjoys wide community support due to its careful stewardship of its existing dispensary over the past 4 years, and in recognition of the commercial activity that this dispensary has driven to the benefit of the local businesses. Columbia Care has received the endorsements of both the Jefferson Park Chamber of Commerce and the Portage Park Chamber of Commerce. In addition, Columbia Care has received support from both the Jefferson Park Neighbors and Jefferson Park Forward community groups. At a 45th Ward public meeting, Columbia Care received universal support, and Alderman Gardner has provided this committee with his letter of support. In expanding these operations, the applicant simply seeks to adaptively reuse the existing single-story vacant space at 4760 North Milwaukee, while otherwise leaving its existing dispensary intact under a Type 1 zoning map amendment. I'm joined by Adam Gores and Andrew Bailey to answer any questions that this committee may have of the applicant. And with the support of the alderman, I respectfully request this committee's favorable recommendation to rezone 4758 to 60 North Milwaukee to a C22 zoning district. And we're here to answer any questions.
Thank you, Tyler. We do have a letter of support from Alderman Gardner, but I believe he would like to say a few words. Alderman Gardner.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I'm here to speak in support of Columbia Care attaining a zoning amendment to support the expansion of an existing medical and adult use cannabis dispensary that is currently located at 4758 North Milwaukee and would like to expand to 4760 North Milwaukee to help support the demand from our community in other areas of our city. Columbia Care is a model business in our community that has been in operation since January of 2020. Columbia Care not only adds a substantial amount of tax revenue to our city, but also helps employ a number of people within our community. Being that Columbia Care has proven its worth to our city as an existing business that looks to further serve the demand from residents in our community, I ask that you join our community in supporting this zoning amendment and special use permit. I appreciate that the marijuana dispensary industry as a whole needs more diversity, and I believe Columbia Care has made strides to address this issue. I would like to introduce Adam Goers, who is the Vice President of Corporate Affairs of Columbia Care, and his Director of Public Policy, Ms. Abiba, to speak on their efforts to improve minority participation in this thriving industry.
Okay.
Thank you.
Alderman, on the benefit of time, let's have one person speak very shortly, because obviously Mr.
Absolutely.
Manick and yourself have articulated the support. I haven't seen any questions up, but let's do one speaker, just try to summarize this in less than a minute.
Yep.
As for, if it pleases the committee, Nigas Debebe, our Director of Public Policy.
Thank you for that. I just want to echo what the alderman said in terms of our ongoing efforts to support equity. We have incubated 2 partnerships with social equity applicants in the current round of dispensary licensing. And though we faced continued delays, we have made every effort to continue engaging with those partners in the interim, and including having commitments to support one of our partners, Michael Malcolm, in placing other cannabis-related accessories in our dispensing facilities, and other efforts to, again, elevate marginalized folks who are aspiring cannabis entrepreneurs. We also have partnered with All of Us Are None on webinars around entering the cannabis industry for folks for returning citizens, and we'll continue to execute those programs going forward. Appreciate your time today and available for any additional questions.
Thank you. Question, I think Alderman Moore has his hand up. David?
Yes, Chairman, I do apologize. I'm so sorry. One of my staff members had came in, so I caught the tail end. Is this a dispensary?
Yes, it is. It was a medical and now expanding to recreational.
And what's the?
I'm sorry?
I sent you a text message. Do we have an answer for that guy?
Wait. Ariel, I think you need to be on mute, Ariel. All right, David.
And so what was the breakdown of the ownership of this in terms of minority versus majority?
All right. That's a question for Tyler. Do you want to answer that?
Yes, it's a publicly traded company, so the ownership is diverse and pretty infinite, so it's ever changing. So it's hard to evaluate who owns it at any given time.
Okay. Right. Well, Alderman Gardner, I respect what you're doing. I'm right now, I am just not happy that right now there's no minority owners in this game. And for me, I've been committed to vote no on any dispensary that's coming on. I don't know if anyone else feels the same way. I don't know if my colleagues are on this phone, but I cannot support this until we have some minority owners coming into this space. We've lost so much, and it's not moving even now today. I hear about what people saying they're doing this piece for minorities, but I see no ownership whatsoever, and I can't in good conscience vote for anything like that.
Thank you, Alderman. Any other questions? Can I get a motion? Move to pass by the same roll call that was used to establish quorum.
Cardona, so to pass.
Alderman Cardona moves to pass by the the roll call vote. Any opposed to that motion?
Alderman Moore is opposed.
Yes, David, we'll record you as voting no on this. With that, the ordinance passed with the one objection of Alderman Moore. Thank you. Thank you, team. Next item is, let me see, is document number 20614, 35th Ward. Ordinance was referred on January 27th of 21. Common address is 2621 through 2623 North Kimball. Change request, RS3, residential single unit detached house district, to an RT4 residential 2-flat townhouse and multi-unit district. Again, we have Tyler Manick on it. Tyler?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Tyler Manick of Shane Banks, Kenny and Schwartz. I'm here on behalf of the applicant, Matthew Kremens, beneficiary of the land trust, which owns the subject property at 2621 to 23 North Kimball. The property is currently in an RS3 zoning district. It is legal non-conforming existing 3-story 4-dwelling unit building. Mr. Kremens acquired the building in November 2019 with the intent to reside in one of the units. The building was originally constructed many years ago as a 5-unit building. However, the prior owner deconverted the building from 5 units to 4 units without proper permit. By the zoning map amendment, the applicant to an RT4 zoning district, the applicant seeks to restore the building to its original 5 units. No changes are proposed to the existing building exterior, massing, or scale. All work proposed would be interior in nature and just putting it back to its original condition. Prior to filing this application, the applicant went through a long community process, meeting with Logan Square Neighborhood Association, Somos Logan Square, and Logan Square Preservation, as well as nearby neighbors. Through those meetings, the applicant has entered into a community benefits agreement to maintain one of the units at this building affordable. Because of the applicant's diligence in the community process, the alderman has kindly given the applicant a letter of support for this zoning amendment to an RT4 zoning district. And with the support of the alderman, the applicant respectfully requests that this committee's favorable recommendation to rezone 2621 to 2623 North Kimball to an RT4 zoning district. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Tyler. We do have a letter of support from Carlos Ramirez Rosa. Questions from committee members? I don't see any hands up. Can I get a motion move to pass by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum? How about a motion, guys? And girls, ladies, gentlemen.
Alderman Riley so moves.
Move to.
Okay, Alderman Riley moves to pass on the motion. Any objections to that? Hearing none, the item's passed. All right. Next, we're staying in the 35th Ward. Document number 20612 T1, 35th Ward. Ordinance was referred on January 27th of 21. This address is 2901 North Milwaukee Avenue. And the change request from a B22 Neighborhood Mixed Use District to a B23 Neighborhood Mixed Use District. Tyler Manick.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Tyler Manick, Shane Banks, Kenny and Schwartz. I am the attorney for 2901 North Milwaukee LLC, which owns the subject property at 2901 North Milwaukee. 2901 North Milwaukee is currently in a B22 zoning district and is improved with an old lot line to lot line mixed use building with ground floor commercial space and 6 dwelling units. The applicant seeks a zoning map amendment to a B23 zoning district in order to adaptively reuse the existing building and add 3 dwelling units. All of the work would be interior, but for the maintenance to the exterior to bring back to its original facade. After rezoning, the property will have 9 dwelling units and 1,500 square feet of ground floor commercial space. The property is a transit served location and no parking will be added as a result. The applicant went through a rigorous community process like the application before. They gained the support of Logan Square neighbors, Somos Logan Square, and Logan Square Preservation, while gaining widespread support during a 35th Ward public meeting. And due to the applicant's efforts, the alderman has given the applicant his letter of support. With the support of the alderman, the applicant respectfully requests this committee's favorable recommendation to rezone this parcel to a B23 zoning district, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Tyler. Again, we do have a letter of support from Carlos Ramirez Rosa.
Move to pass, Chairman.
Okay, questions? Alderman Scott Wagasback moves to pass by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum. Any objections to that? Hearing none, the item's passed. All right. Staying in 30. Page 3. Okay. All right. Top of page 3, document number 20608 T1, 29th Ward. Ordinance was referred on January 27th of 21. Common address 7128 West Grand Avenue. And the change request M11 Limited Manufacturing Business Park District to C11 Neighborhood Commercial District. Tyler, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. For the record, again, my name is Tyler Mann, Shane Banks, Kenny and Schwartz. I'm here on behalf of the applicant 7107 West Grand Partnership, who owns the property at 7128 West Grand. The applicant seeks a zoning map amendment from the M11 to a C11 zoning district in order to allow the additional use of operating a butcher shop with wholesale services in the existing building. The applicant will provide 3 parking spaces, and the 7,128 square feet of commercial space that exists now will continue to remain. The property is a transit served location in close proximity to the Montclair Metro Station. Prior to filing this application, the applicant met with Alderman Taliaferro, who has given this committee his letter of support. With the Alderman's support, I respectfully request this committee's favorable recommendation to rezone 7128 West Grand to a C11 zoning district and allow for the applicant's use, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Tyler. We do have a letter of support from Alderman Taliaferro. Any questions for the applicant? Hearing no questions. Can I get a motion to move to pass by Vice Chair Raboyes makes that motion to move to pass by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum. Any objection to his motion?
No, hold on.
The item is passed. All right, middle of page 3, document number 20607 T1, 25th Ward. Ordinance was referred on January 27th of 21. The common address 901 West Cullerton. Change request M12 Limited Manufacturing Business Park District to a B22 Neighborhood Mixed Use District. Tyler Manick.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Tyler Manick, Shane Banks, Kenny and Schwartz. I'm here on behalf of the applicant Socalo Development, which owns 901 West Cullerton. This matter has a substitute type 1 narrative, so I could ask for that the application to include this substitute type 1 narrative.
Alderman Raboyes moves to accept the substantive narrative and plans for the type 1 application by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum. Any objections of that? Hearing none, the substantive narrative and plans are accepted, and we can continue.
Thank you. The subject property at 901 West Cullerton is a vacant lot located in the M12 zoning district. The property is surrounded by residential developments for which prior rezonings were allowed from M districts. The applicant seeks a type 1 zoning map amendment to a B22 zoning district in order to construct a 2-flat. The applicant was born and raised in Pilsen and he wishes to construct his residence at 901 West Cullerton. One of his family members will reside in the other unit. The building will be 3.5 stories tall and provide 3 parking spaces. Prior to filing, the applicant met with the alderman and his zoning advisory council, who supported this application. A letter of support from the alderman was provided to this committee. With the support of the alderman, I respectfully request that this committee favorably recommend the rezone of 901 West Cullerton to a B22 zoning district for the applicant to build his residence for his family on this vacant lot. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions by committee members? I don't see any hands up. Can I get a motion to accept this by the substantive narrative and plans for the type 1 application by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum?
Move to pass, Chairman. Alderman Wagasback.
Alderman Wagasback moves that motion.
Yeah.
Any objections to the motion? Hearing none, the substantive narrative and plans have been passed and will be referred to the council tomorrow. All right. Now we're going to go back to the 33rd ward, and that is on page 1, because we have our Alderwoman Rosanna Rodriguez Sanchez on the call, so I'll read it back into the record. Document number 8616, 33rd Ward. Ordinance was referred on November 16th of 2020. And I'm going to give you these numbers. They're all on Elston Avenue. It's 2928, 2932, 2938 through 60, 2905 through 27, 2939 through 43, 2947, 2957 through 2973. And again, all these addresses are on Elston Avenue. The change request, RS3, Residential Single Unit Detached House District, an RT4 Residential 2-Flat Townhouse and Multi-Unit District, C12 Neighborhood Commercial District, and an M12 Limited Manufacturing Business Park District, all to an RT4 Residential 2-Flat Townhouse and Multi-Unit District. So, Alderman Rodriguez Sanchez, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chairman. We are requesting a rezoning of these properties to reflect the actual use. This has been wrongly deemed manufacturing and commercial, but we visited the area recently, and many neighbors have been unfairly charged non-compliance fines because of the incorrect zoning classification of the area. So we want to request that these properties are rezoned to reflect the actual use in benefit of our neighbors.
Okay. Before I ask for questions, we have a substitute on the ordinance, correct, Alderwoman?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to ask.
So move on the substitute.
Oh, I was just going to call my vice chair. Alderman Raboyes moves to accept the substitute by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum. Any objections to that motion? Hearing none, the substitute is accepted. Obviously, now on the motion or on the substitute. Any questions for the Alderwoman? I don't see any. So, can I get a motion to pass on the substitute by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum?
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Again, Vice Chairman Boyes makes that motion. And any objections to the motion? Hearing none, the item is passed as substituted. Okay, thank you, Alderman Rodriguez Sanchez. All right. Now, moving back to the bottom of page 3. Document number 20602 T1, 45th Ward. Ordinance was referred on January 27th of 21. Common address 4524 West Irving Park Road, and the change request C12 Neighborhood Commercial District to B23 Neighborhood Mixed Use District. And we have Paul Kolpak on this one. Paul?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman.
Good afternoon, Paul. You want to speak on the Western
My name is Paul Kolpak, offices of 6767 North Milwaukee Avenue. I represent the applicant and owner, 4524 Irving Park Road, LLC. As you mentioned, our request is to change the current C11 Neighborhood Commercial District to that of the B2-3 Neighborhood Mixed Use District. The purpose is to meet the bulk and density, allow the construction of a new 3-story, 9-dwelling unit masonry building with 9 parking spaces We want to thank Alderman Gardner. He put together Zoom meetings with the neighborhood. We believe we have neighborhood support. The property is a vacant piece of property that's approximately 7,587 square feet. We believe we have community support as well as aldermanic support as per his letter, which I believe you have in the file.
We do have a letter of support from Alderman Gardner. Did I hear parking or no parking? What was
Yes, there's 9 parking spaces.
Okay, great. 1-to-1. Okay.
1-to-1. One of those will be handicap space.
Thank you very much. Questions? Alderman, I see you're on the call. We have a letter of support. Is there anything you wanted to add, or are you good with the letter? Alderman Gardner.
Just that's it. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, can you hear me?
I heard you loud and clear. Thank you. All right.
Move to
Okay,
pass,
thank you.
Chairman Alderman Lopez.
All right, so I don't see any more questions, but I did get a motion by Alderman Lopez to move passing this item by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum. Any objections to his motion? Hearing no objections, the item is passed. All right, top of page 4. And this item is number 20601 T1, 31st Ward. Ordinance was referred on January 27th of 21. This common address, 4417 through 31 West Belmont Avenue and 3151 North Kenneth Avenue. The change request, B11 Neighborhood Shopping District to a C21 Motor Vehicle Related Commercial District. Paul Kolpak.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Paul Kolpak with offices at 6767 North Milwaukee Avenue. As a point of order, we have sent to the committee substitute plans and a substitute narrative, and I would like them to be part of this proceeding.
All right.
Chairman.
I'm sorry, who is that?
Lopez.
Okay. Alderman Lopez moves to accept the substantive narrative and plans for the type 1 application by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum. Any objections to his motion? Hearing none, the substantive narrative and plans are in front of us. Continue, Paul.
As you mentioned, Alderman, the request is to change the B1 neighborhood shopping district to that of C2-1 motor vehicle related commercial district. This property was a contractor's yard for close to 20 years. And under prior alderman, it was downzoned, and my client then forgot to renew his license. So therefore, we are coming back for this zoning change. Alderman Cardona was kind enough to have his offices for a meeting as well as a Zoom meeting with the neighbors. They had input as to the site plan, and we believe we have community support as well as aldermanic support for this project, as evidenced with the letter dated February 2nd from the alderman.
Okay, well, we do have received a letter from Alderman Cardona, but I think he's on the call. Felix, do you want to talk on this one?
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, colleagues, for hearing this out. Basically, it's currently empty, vacant contractor's yard. What we're doing, or the owner plans to do, is beautify, bring landscaping, and also change the entrance onto Kenneth Avenue, so it doesn't disrupt the neighborhood and the alley, the residents behind the alley of vacant lot. By this, you're taking something that looks very empty, and it doesn't make the neighborhood look nice. So we're going to beautify it and then also make some changes. So for your considerate support, I'm requesting your support in this change of zoning.
Great. Thank you, Alderman Cardona. Any questions for the alderman or the applicant?
So
Hearing
move, aye.
So Alderman Raboyes moves to pass with the substantive narrative and plans on the application by the same roll call that was used to establish quorum. Any objections to that motion?
No.
Hearing none, the item is passed with the substantive narrative and plans.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Chairman. Have a good day.
Thank you, Paul. We're moving middle of page 4. Document number 20613, T1, in the 40th Ward. Ordinance was referred on January 27th of 21. Common address 5214 through 24 North Lincoln Avenue and 2501 through 2511 West Farragut Avenue. This change request, B23 Neighborhood Mixed Use District to B23 Neighborhood Mixed Use District. Looks like a modification to a T1. All right, Rolando.
Okay,
Rolando
so
Acosta. Oh, I'm sorry.
hi, Chairman Tunney. I'm actually covering for Rolando right
Okay.
now. This is
Great.
his case, but he asked me to cover for him. So if you don't mind, I can.
Of course,
ahead.
proceed. Mhm.
Okay. I hope everyone's doing well. So the matter before you today is to amend a clerical error, as you mentioned, in the property's existing B23 Type 1 that was rezoned last year. We would like to amend the Type 1 narrative that included 55,000 square feet to 58,050 square feet. The narrative is a substitute narrative, and there is substitute plans and a substitute ordinance, which I ask respectfully to be incorporated into the record, please.
Okay. Thank you. Alderman Raboyes moves to accept the substantive narrative and plans for the Type 1 application by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum. Any objections to the motion? Hearing none, the substantive narrative and plans are accepted. And
Okay, thank you. And then just for the record, we participated in a community meeting last year for the original Type 1, and we had a letter of support then when we rezoned it. And we have a letter of support now, which the committee received, I believe, yesterday.
I'm sorry, do we have a substitute? We've got another
The
substitute.
letter of support.
No, what? Our office says is there a substitute to additional substitute, or was it just the change in square footage?
So it's the change in square footage from 55 to 58,000.
Right.
However, we did include 4 more parking spots, so there is a change in the plan. So we went from 20 parking spots to 24 parking spots.
Okay, so I got to get a motion. We got to get a motion on that too. Okay, so, Raboyes, I'm sorry.
All right, I was gonna move to accept the substitute.
Okay, so, yeah, Alderman Lopez moves to accept the substitute by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum. Any objections to that? Okay, so now the substitute is accepted. So now we know the square footage and we know the parking spaces
And then there is one more clerical error. For the ordinance, there's just a typo in the ordinance. So, again, I ask to incorporate the substitute ordinance into the record, please.
Okay, so that's what we just, that was what we just.
I don't know if you're
Okay.
taking it in steps again or not.
I think for the record, I think we're good. All right.
Okay.
So, all right, and
We have letter support.
We
as
do
well.
have a letter of support from Alderman Vasquez.
I'm
and-
here, so thumbs up, Chairman.
All right, well, that's a pretty good line of support there. All right, questions for the Alderman or the applicant? No hands up. So I'm going to ask Alderman Raboyes to move to pass on this with the substantive narrative and plans and the amended and the amendments that were put forth by the applicant. Any objections to those motions?
So move.
No. Raboyes moves it, and there's no objections, so the item is passed with the substantive narrative and plans. All right, that was a different. Let's just put it that way. Okay. All right. So now we're in the bottom
Thank you.
page. Thank you. Bottom page 4. Document number 20598, 33rd Ward. Ordinance was referred on January 27th of 21. This common address, 3453 through 57 North Albany Avenue. And the change request, RS3 Residential Single Unit Detached House District to a C11 Neighborhood Commercial District. We have Angela Diaz.
Hi.
Angela, you're.
Hi. Yeah, Angela Diaz. My name's Angela Diaz.
I actually live in Avondale, and I have a cookie company called Your Cookie, and we are currently in a shared kitchen space, and we're looking to move into move our bakery, our wholesale bakery and manufacturing bakery kind of thing into this building. Spoke with Edison, and he wanted to, which is the owner of the building and my landlord, and he went through this whole process with me and everything. We got letter of approval from Alderman Rossana Rodriguez. We got our letter from them, and we went through their community zoning process first because we were unaware about this process, and then we went through this process. So this is hopefully finalizing that, and very basically, I just want to be able to bake cookies and serve coffee out of that space.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, right?
Okay, well, okay, that was a comment, that wasn't a question. Questions by committee members? I just have a very small question because it seems to me by the narrative that it's 405 square feet. That's pretty small for a wholesale and retail operation.
That would be our retail spot. We're planning in a year to move the bulk of our business to a warehouse facility, like a larger warehouse, and this will be our retail Chicago home front spot. So this will be I want it to be small enough because we are actually not allowing anyone to come inside. It's only walk up
Okay.
only. So the whole space will be mostly production, baking, all of that, and then we'll have a walk-up window for the coffee, the baked cookies, our cookie dough, and all of that.
Okay. Yeah. It's still small.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's small, but it's a start, right?
Hey, I certainly appreciate and commend you for the effort and also the community process with Alderman Rodriguez Sanchez. So any questions other questions by committee members? If not, can I get a motion move to pass by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum?
So moved by Cardona.
Alderman Cardona makes that motion. Any objections to his motion? And hearing none, the item is passed. Good luck to you, Ms. Diaz.
Mr. Chairman, I don't know if I ever said that I was present, Alderman Burnett.
You will be added to the roll. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay. Good luck to you.
Thanks.
All right. Top of page 5. Document number 20591 T1, 32nd Ward. Ordinance was referred on January 27th of 21. This common address, 1922 West Wilmont Avenue. Change request, RS3 Residential Single Unit Detached House District to an RM5 Residential Multi-Unit District. Mark Kupiak. Mark?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Mark Kupiak. I'm an attorney with offices at 77 West Washington, and I represent the applicant, Marcos Fernandez. Mr. Fernandez is a longtime resident of that neighborhood, longtime property owner. And the subject property originally was 2 lots, which are now considered 1 zoning lot. The zoning change would allow a division of the improved zoning lot, and that division would allow the existing 6-flat building to remain as is on one of the lots, and then it would allow Mr. Fernandez to build a new single-family home on the other lot. At the Alderman's request, we worked extensively with the Bucktown Community Organization. We made some changes in response to some of their suggestions, and we got their support, followed up with aldermanic staff, and Mr. Fernandez did promise to downzone the property and restore the zoning after the new single-family home was built. With that, we did ask the alderman for his letter of support, which
Mark, we're losing you a little bit, but we do have a letter of support, I believe, from Alderman Wagasbeck, but I know he's on the call. Scott, do you want to?
Yes, Chairman, thanks. Mr. Kupiak's correct. They do have a restricted covenant that they worked on for us as well, which is very helpful. And for purposes of planning, I support the ordinance and ask for my colleagues' support of the ordinance as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Questions for the applicant or the alderman? Hearing none, can I get a motion to move to pass by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum?
Move to pass by Alderman Lopez.
So Alderman Ray Lopez makes that motion. Any objections to his motion? Hearing none, the item is passed. All right. Now we're going to middle of page 5, document number 20600 T1, First Ward. Ordinance was referred on January 27th of 21. Common address is 2101 through 2103 West Chicago Avenue, and the change request, C12 Neighborhood Commercial District to a C13 Neighborhood Commercial District. Mark Kupiec.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. How's this sound? Any better now?
You're good.
Okay, good. My name is Mark Kupiec. I'm an attorney with offices at 77 West Washington, represent the applicant. And the subject property is currently improved. It also consists of 2 lots, improved with a 3-story building on one of the lots. And the first floor of that 3-story building houses a business, Kasha's Deli, which is a very popular and well-known business in the neighborhood. It's existed there for many years. Actually, Kasha's children are still involved in the business. And the purpose of the zoning change is to build an addition to the existing building, and the addition would allow Kasha's Deli to expand and give them more room to operate. So on the addition, the first floor would be used for an expansion of the existing business, and on the upper floors of the addition, they would add three new apartments to the building. We've worked with Alderman LaSpada and his zoning process over a period of time. We did have a virtual community meeting where we described the project and answered the questions. Alderman staff, I think, then followed up with some additional community outreach to various community groups, and we answered whatever questions came in response to that. And at the end of this community process, we did ask the alderman for his support, and I do believe he sent a letter to the committee, and we ask for your recommendation.
Thank you, Mark. We do have a letter of support from Alderman LaSpada. We do have a question from Alderman Ray Lopez.
Thank you, Chairman. Are these the Kasha? Are these any connection to the Kasha Pierogi family?
Kasha Pierogies, the very same, well known for their pierogies all over the city.
Well, I join my vice chairman, who I see nodding vigorously at the idea of being supportive of Kashas. They are known everywhere. So, achtu.
All right.
Thank
Any
you.
other questions, comments? I want to salute the family for their reputation and also the transition to a new generation, and they're going to expand rather than contract. So I think that's pretty cool. So, all right. So I'm going to Alderman Ray Lopez moves to pass by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum. Any objections? Hearing none, the item is passed. All right. Bottom of page 5. Document number 20609, 32nd Ward. Ordinance was referred on January 27th of 21. Common address, 1883 through 1885 West Fullerton Avenue. The change request, M33 Heavy Industry District to an M12 Limited Manufacturing Business Park District. All right. Let's see. Tim Barton. Tim?
Good afternoon, Chairman. Can you hear me?
We can. Proceed.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Tim Barton. I'm with the law office of Thomas Raines. For the record here, we have a substitute that revises the property description. I submitted that yesterday. Do you have a copy?
We do. Alderman Raboyes moves to accept the substitute by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum. Any objections to the motion?
So move.
No objections. The substitute is in front of us. Tim, continue.
I'm here today representing Dr. Lenny Cohen, who is the applicant. Dr. Cohen is a neurology specialist at Rush University Medical Center. He is the owner of Chicago Neurological Services, which has 2 existing offices. His intent here is to construct a building in order to consolidate those offices. The lot is in the North Branch Industrial corridor. As you say, it's a M3-3 heavy industry zoning district, and he wants to amend that to an M11 light industry district in order to allow the medical service use to be established there. The property consists of 2 parcels currently improved with 2.
Tim, let me interrupt. I mean,
Yep.
you said M33 to an M what?
M1-2.
Okay, that's what the narrative said. I just want to confirm that. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. The property consists of 2 parcels. It's improved with 2 two-story existing commercial buildings. The applicant proposes to demolish the buildings on both lots and combine them into a single 7,115 square foot lot. Dr. Cohen plans to construct a new 3-story, approximately 8,800 square foot building. It will be 3 stories tall, it will be roughly 45 feet tall. He will occupy, his plan is to occupy the lower 2 floors at a minimum, and then rent out the 3rd floor to another medical office. There will be 12 parking spaces, which will require alley access. The site is just west of the reconfigured portion of North Elston. The block is a mixture of housing and businesses. The property immediately next door to the east is a vacant lot. In January, the applicant met with Alderman Wagasback. He expressed his approval for the development. And in addition, at his direction, we shared the plans with 2 community business associations, the North Branch Works and the North Elston Business Owners, and no comments have been received from them. So, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I respectfully ask for your recommendation on this amendment.
Okay. I know Alderman Wagasback's on the call. We do have a letter of support. Scott, do you want to say a few things or not on this one?
Yes, Chairman, just very quickly, we had an agreement just on something minor, which was the non-use of CMU. Hopefully we can keep to that, but I think they were working on, Mr. Barton's been great on responding to a lot of the small issues that we've talked about. We do have support from the 3 neighborhood groups in the area, and for purposes of planning, I would just ask for the favorable consideration of my colleagues on this zoning ordinance.
Thank you, Alderman. Any questions for the applicant or the Alderman? Hearing none, Alderman Cardona moves to pass this substituted ordinance by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum. Any objections to that? Hearing none, the item is passed as substituted. Thank you, Tim.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee.
All right, now we're on the top of page 6. In the 28th Ward, document number 20606, the ordinance was referred on January 27th of 21. This common address, 4317 West Gladys Avenue, and the change request, RT4 residential 2-flat townhouse multi-unit district to an RM 4.5. And I'm going to read the next one into the record. I'll do 2 at a time on this one because we will do the 20606 and then we're going to do 20605. Again, 28th Ward ordinance was referred same date, January 27th of 21. This common address is 4036 West Gladys. Change request is the same from an RT4 residential 2-flat townhouse and multi-unit district to an RM 4.5 residential multi-unit district. So Sarah, we're going to take both of these 2 together.
If it pleases you, Mr. Chairman, I'd be happy to include item number 20604 as well. Although they're not contiguous properties, they're identical in terms of applicant.
All right. Then let me read that one into the record because they're all on the 40, well, on Gladys Avenue. This is the 3rd one now. on Gladys, number 20604, 28th Ward. This ordinance again referred on January 27th, 21. Common address 4139 West Gladys Avenue, and the change request similar, RT4 residential 2-flat townhouse and multi-unit district to an RM 4.5 residential multi-unit district. Just want to double check. Those are the only ones that we have on Gladys, correct? In Alderman Irvin's ward, right? Those three?
That's correct, Mr.
Okay. All right. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. Let's go on all three.
Thank you. Perfect. Good afternoon, Mr.
There you go. There you go.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Sarah Barnes, and I'm an attorney with the law offices of Sam Banks, located at 221 North LaSalle Street. I'm happy to be here today on behalf of the applicant, KMJ Properties Incorporated. As a little relevant background with regard to these properties and this applicant, the applicant is a management company that actually acquires damaged and foreclosed properties and cleans them up, including any code violations, and does renovations to the existing buildings that comprise these properties in an effort to provide and retain more affordable housing in and throughout the city of Chicago. The applicant does not flip any of its acquisitions or properties. They do maintain management of it. Another unique attribute is that all of the buildings that it acquires are occupied and or rented by CHA, Chicago Housing Authority voucher holders and or veterans, and will remain occupied at an affordable level to those same occupants. So towards that end, the three properties that were indicated, 4316 West Gladys Avenue, 4036 West Gladys Avenue, and 4139 West Gladys Avenue, are all currently improved with an existing 3-story with basement 4-unit residential building. In order to maintain management and keep these buildings insured for CHA use, we are required to cure any non-conforming conditions that affect the property. Each of these properties is non-conforming with regard to their density. They all have one additional dwelling unit above and beyond what the underlying RT4 zoning classification supports. So as a result, we worked with Alderman Irvin as well. We sat down and discussed some of these proposals with the residents in the neighborhood, and are just here today seeking to bring each of the existing buildings into compliance under the current zoning ordinance, which requires a minor bump in the underlying zoning classification. There will be no other physical changes to the existing buildings. And like I said, all of them are fully occupied at present time. They've undergone renovations and they will be maintained in good shape with good insurance for the remainder of occupancy. So with that, as I said, we did work with Alderman Irvin, who has submitted a letter of support with regard to each of these properties, and we very respectfully request the approval of this committee here today.
Sarah, we do have each one of these applications has a letter of support from Alderman Irvin, and I do see Alderman Lopez's hand up for questions. Raymond?
Thank you, Chairman. Good afternoon. Yes, good afternoon, Sarah. How are you? I just wanted to ask a quick question with regards to these properties. First off, I think it's great that Alderman Irvin's able to bring life back to some of these properties. But were these properties known to be out of compliance? Were these illegal conversions? Because as you know, it's something that I've repeatedly talked about when people buy these properties and find out they've got a present waiting for them with regards to their zoning. Was this known when they bought it, or was this a surprise?
So a little bit of a surprise. Unfortunately, most of these properties are acquired through foreclosure. And sadly, for some reason, the banks that took over during the foreclosure did not have good records So my client, the applicant actually did their due diligence as soon as they acquired each of the properties, went in for the proper permitting to do some of the renovations. And that's when they first discovered that there are no permits on file with the city, either through their archives or their current records, that show that fourth dwelling unit. The original permits that were obviously pulled by a predecessor only were for 3 units. So at some point between the time of original construction and the time that the property was foreclosed, somebody put an additional unit in the building.
Right. And forgive me, when you buy a property like this through foreclosure, do buyers still have the opportunity to get a certificate of zoning as a normal purchaser would? Because I think that would have alleviated that concern.
Yeah,
I'm sure Patrick Murphy knows where I'm going next if it wasn't.
Exactly. No, they did submit for a certificate of occupancy certification, and that's when they started down the path. That's when they discovered that there was only 3 units that were legally permitted.
Okay. Well, Chairman, I just want to state that first off, I am obviously in full support of this for Alderman Irvin, but I think that, you know, whether it's a developer or what could have been just a regular citizen purchasing these properties, this is still one of those issues that we need to address at some point. I know I've discussed it ad nauseum in this committee, where people get a property only to find out that their 3 unit is legally a 2 unit, and then have to spend thousands of dollars to get the zoning changed to be in compliance. So I would hope that we take that up seriously this year, so that we can figure out a way to resolve these issues without having to come before this body every time. Not that I don't mind seeing all of our attorneys, but you know, we have to make it easier for people.
Towards that, and Alderman, I appreciate you actually making that comment, because we also looked at permitting this through the new ADU ordinance, and unfortunately these properties don't fall within the pilot areas. So right now we weren't afforded that opportunity. Otherwise we would have certainly taken advantage of that.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Alderman. And any other questions on these 3 applications on Gladys? Hearing none. Alderman Cardona moves to pass on all 3 by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum. Any objection to the motion? And again, these are 3 items passed in the same motion. Okay. Hearing no objections, these items are passed. Thank you, Sarah. All right. We're gonna
Step with me for a couple more.
Yes, we're on page 7. And we're in the 45th ward, document number 20408 T1. Ordinance was referred on May 20th of 2020. Common address is 3800 North Milwaukee Avenue, and the change request M11 Limited Manufacturing Business Park District to C11 Neighborhood Commercial District. And it looks like we've got some drama with this, so let's start.
Thank you. Thank you once more, Mr. Chairman and members of the
You
committee.
take the mic up a little bit, will you?
Oh, sorry.
There you go.
Thank you. Once more for the record, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, my name is Sarah Barnes, and I'm an attorney with the law offices of Sam Banks, located at 221 North LaSalle Street. As a matter of procedural background, Mr. Chairman, this matter involves a proposed zoning map amendment within an industrial corridor, in particular the Knox Industrial Corridor, which is located in the 45th Ward, by and through which the applicant is seeking to rezone the subject property from a manufacturing underlying zoning classification to a commercial underlying zoning classification in order to reactivate an otherwise dormant and abandoned industrial site. Towards this end, prior to appearing before this honorable committee, we presented this proposal to the Chicago Plan Commission at its public hearing on February 18th of this year, after working with the Department of Planning and Development for many months towards the programming, function, and design of the proposed new improvements and uses. As a result of the same, at the February 18th hearing, the Plan Commission voted unanimously to recommend approval of the proposal finding that the requested rezoning would not adversely affect the continued viability of the other uses in the corridor. Based on the foregoing, I respectfully request that this committee please incorporate the record of proceedings from the February 18th Plan Commission hearing and all corresponding exhibits thereto into the record here today.
Alderman Raboyes moves to incorporate the records from the Plan Commission by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum. Any objections to his motion?
Move.
No objections. The records are incorporated from the Plan Commission. Next.
Thanks again. Along these same lines, Mr. Chairman, it should also be noted that as a result of our ongoing review with DPD, the ordinance and corresponding architectural plans, which were originally submitted with the subject type 1 zoning change application, were revised or otherwise modified. As such, I also respectfully request that this committee adopt the substitute ordinance, substitute narrative, and substitute plans into the record here today.
All right. So again, Alderman Raboyes moves to accept the substantive narrative and plans for the type 1 application by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum. Any objections to his motion? Hearing none, the item is passed with the substantive narrative and plans. And then what else?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Getting back to the proposal, the applicant is seeking a change in the underlying zoning in order to allow for the adaptive reuse of the existing one-story multi-unit building at the subject site. In particular, the proposed rezoning will permit the establishment and operation of a more diverse mix of commercial, business, office, and service uses at the subject property, which is located in the middle of a vibrant mixed-use corridor, merging the old Irving Park, Portage Park, and Jefferson Park neighborhoods. Such new uses for which the applicant already has signed letters of intent and/or leases include a Spanish daycare and learning facility, an indoor soccer facility, as well as an instructional training studio for youth athletes in the city, and a non-for-profit distribution warehouse whose mission it is to ensure that every child within the city has the essentials required to thrive in the first 5 years of their lives. To be clear, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, aside from the interior build out of each of the existing 7 units within that one-story building, the proposal does not call for or require any changes to or expansion of the footprint or envelope of that building. It is only to allow for a more diverse mix of uses. With that, we have worked with Alderman Gardner and his staff towards this proposal, as well as spending, like I said, almost a year with the Department of Planning and Development towards the programming for this new adaptive reuse. And we do have, I believe, a letter on file with your office, Mr. Chairman, from Alderman Gardner acknowledging his support of the project. And with that, we respectfully request the support of this honorable committee for the proposal.
Okay. Thank you. My staff's told me that we need to accept the substantive narrative and plans before we vote on it as revised. So, yeah, Alderman Raboyes moves to accept the substitute narrative and plans. We've been discussing them. So now we have, I think your presentation is complete. Is that right?
It is, Chairman.
Okay. So we do have a letter of support from Alderman Gardner. Any questions on this adaptive reuse? I think I'll start. What's the parking?
We actually are overparked. So the site technically qualifies for a transit served location. It is just off of the Milwaukee CTA station. However, because each of these unit uses is very family oriented, we have overparked the facility. We have 126 off-street parking spaces, and the requirement is around 99.
Okay. All right. Other questions? Okay. Then I need a motion to pass this substitute ordinance by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum.
Move to pass the substitute, Chairman Alderman Wagasback.
Well, we had the substitute in front of us.
Sorry.
Moving to pass the ordinance as
ordinance.
substituted. All right, so Alderman Wagisback moves to not accept it, but to move the ordinance as substituted. I think is the best way to say it. Any opposed to that motion? Hearing none, the item is passed as substituted. Thank you, Sarah. And we still have one more with you, I think. Okay, let me read it into the record. It's on the middle of second item on page 7. Document number 20545, 28th Ward, referred on November 16th of 2020. Common address 4206 West Van Buren Street. And the change request from an RT4 residential 2-flat townhouse and multi-unit district to an RM 4.5 residential multi-unit district. This sounds like, since it's in Irvin's ward, this sounds similar to what we did on Gladys, correct?
Ding, 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 you are correct. Yes,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman. Once more, last time for the record, my name is Sarah Barnes, and I'm an attorney with the offices of Sam Banks, located at 221 North LaSalle Street. As you just alluded to, Mr. Chairman, this is identical to the proposals that you just heard on Gladys Street. Same applicant, same situation, acquired the subject property out of foreclosure. It is currently occupied by 3 CHA voucher holders as well as a veteran. They undertook some renovations. When they went in for the permitting on the renovations, we determined that there was an additional dwelling unit that had never been properly permitted. So we are here today to cure that non-conforming condition so that the property can continue to be occupied without any encumbrances. We have once more on this one worked with Alderman Irvin as well as the residents in the neighborhood, and we have a letter of support from Alderman Irvin on record for this, and we respectfully once again request your approval as well.
And we do have a letter of support from Alderman Irvin. Questions by committee members? No hands up. Alderman Raymond Lopez moves to pass by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum. Any objections? Hearing no objection, the item is passed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I may, my colleague Nick Fatikas has a couple, or I think one matter coming up on the next page. He's going to be logging in under my same Zoom. So,
all right, we got it. Okay.
Okay, thanks a lot. Have a good day, everybody. Bye.
All right. Middle of page 7, document number 20597, 25th Ward. Ordinance was referred on January 27th of 21. The common address, 1130 through 1140 West Monroe Street. Change request, DX3 Downtown Mixed Use District and DS3 Downtown Service District, all to a DS5 Downtown Service District. We have Richard Toth on the application.
Good afternoon, Chairman Tony, members of the zoning committee. Hopefully you can hear me. My name again is Rich Toth. I have offices, I'm an attorney with offices at 20 South Clark Street. I'm appearing on behalf of the applicant, Coco Ventures LLC, on the application to rezone 1130 through 1140 West Monroe Street, again from a split DS and DX district to a unified DS-5 district. The building at 1130 West Monroe Street is the current home of the Wonder Museum. The museum is an ever-evolving immersive art and technology experience designed to ignite curiosity. The museum experience features one-of-a-kind installations from local and global artists, collectives, and studios, and leans into cutting-edge technologies. The museum has long been closed due to COVID-19, but fortunately it has survived the closure and it's able to reopen, that's imminent, and will be in compliance with City of Chicago and other health and safety guidelines and of course precautions. The adjacent building at 1140 West Monroe Street is vacant and is targeted for an expansion of the museum. The COVID closures have delayed some planned expansion and renovations It's delayed the start of that. It's delayed the timeline. It's probably going to initially delay the amount of work that will be done, but we're hopefully back in business here. The zoning change, as you indicated, will provide a unified zoning district and help facilitate the expansion of the museum from 1130 into the adjacent 1140 West Monroe building. That will include planned internal building connections and expansions. There's some difficulties because the floors don't align that well. The applicant did vet the project with Alderman Sichko Lopez's advisory committee with multiple meetings with area groups. Also at the request of the alderman, the applicant is providing a restrictive covenant. I believe the alderman's letter of support is in your packet. I think he might still be on the call too. So on behalf of the applicant, I do request your favorable recommendation for passage. And we thank you for your time and consideration this afternoon.
Thank you, Richard. We do have a letter of support from Alderman Cicho Lopez. He is still on the call, I believe.
Yes, Chairman. Yeah,
Yes,
thank you so much. And yes, we are in full support. And I want to thank the applicant for their patience. They're a valuable member of the community, working with the neighbors on a plan of operations. So we're happy to support and continue to working with them. You know, thank you so much for your patience. And this is, I think, a positive development for the community. Thank you so much for your patience again.
Thank you, Alderman Lopez. Just a quick question. The current size of the museum is X number of square feet, and the addition will yield how many? What's the total?
I'm sorry, I'm afraid I don't have. The addition, as you can see by the drawing on the screen there, the existing museum is in 1130, and the addition, the expansion area will be in 1140. So it's a fraction of the existing museum area.
It looks like an adaptive reuse, I tell you that. So, but I'm sure this vetted with the community, and it's speaking of museums, I know this is in a DS district, but congratulations, Byron, on this expansion.
Thank you, Chair.
Any questions from committee members? Hearing none, I'm gonna Alderman Wagisback, would you make a motion to move by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum?
Motion to pass based on the same roll call used to establish quorum.
Alderman Wagisback makes that motion. Any objections to the motion? Hearing none, the item is passed. Thank you. Now we will be staying in the, let's see, we're in the bottom of page 7. Document number 20603, 24th Ward. Ordinance was referred on January 27th of 21. Common address, 1511 South Keeler Avenue, and the change request. RT4 residential 2-flat townhouse and multi-unit district to an RM5 residential multi-unit district. I think we have Nick or Daniel. Nick.
Yes.
Hi, Nick.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Nick Fatikas from the Law Offices of Sam Banks. I'm here on behalf of the property owner and applicant GMO Properties, LLC. The applicant is proposing to renovate the existing 3-unit residential building located at the subject property, again, 1511 South Keeler. And as part of the process, they're looking to establish a 4th unit, which would be in the garden or basement level of the existing structure. We have worked with Alderman Scott's office, and I believe earlier today, an email or letter was sent from the Alderman's office to staff. We are looking for a zoning change from the current RT4 to an RM5 in order to permit the additional MLA for that 4th unit. Otherwise, the existing building, the footprints and the height are all going to stay as they exist today. Happy to answer any questions you or the board members may have about the request.
Nick, I think we have a letter of support from Alderman Michael Scott. And I don't think he's on the call, but any questions for the applicant? No
Sure.
questions. Alderman Cardona moves to pass by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum. Any opposed to his motion? Hearing none, the item is passed. All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, top of page 8. Document number 20595, 21st Ward. Ordinance was referred on January 27th of 21. Common address, 8109 South Carpenter Street. Change request from an RS2 residential single unit detached house district to an RT4 residential 2-flat townhouse and multi-unit district. And we have, I'm going to not do, Zakia Muhammad.
Pretty good.
Good morning, Chairman, and the members of the committee. Actually, you pronounced my name exactly the way it is, which is a shocker. Everyone messed that up.
I think my staff, I think so, yeah. All right, welcome.
So, once again, for the record, my name is Zakia Muhammad. I come before you today to ask of the rezoning of property 8109 South Carpenter for a rezone from a RS2 to a RT4. The RS2 district does not allow me to rebuild the attic as I have proposed in my plans. The attic floor space is not properly constructed and must be reconstructed in order for my family to use it as a living area. On the call, I do have Kareem, who's my consultant, rezoning consultant, and I have the architect, Furman, and also Christopher. They are on the call with me, so if you guys have any questions as I go through why I'm asking for the rezoning, they can answer those questions. So I inquired the property through CHA. I am one of those family members that was in a stage of being homeless, and I have 5 children. So basically, CHA bought the property for me to accommodate my family special needs. As I stated, my children, I have 5 children, and 4 of them are disabled. So within buying this home, we basically found out later about a lot of things that we couldn't do in the home because of the way it was structured. So I went in and did the necessary things that I needed to do to see what I could do to update the home for my family. And rezoning was part of it. So I did inquire architectural plans. We do have that now. And we also have, we put in for permits. After today, with the support of you guys, hopefully we can move forward with the rezone and go ahead on with the accommodations and adding a second story and remodeling the home for the family size. If there's any questions, please feel free to ask. Once again, I would like to thank the chairman and the members of the committee and Ms. Robles for her helping me getting me here today.
Well, thank you. And I know you've got witnesses for questions by committee members. I'm going to start. Well, first of all, you have met with Alderman Brookins, I believe. We have a letter of support.
Yes,
right, into whatever his community process was. Okay, so we have received that letter of support. I think Alderman Ray Lopez has his hand up. Raymond.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I was just trying to, well, first off, congratulations on your new home.
Thank you.
Are you trying to turn this from a single family into like a 2-flat, like with a rental?
No. So basically, we are a family of 7. And because I have 4 children that's disabled, the space that's there now, which we thought we could use, come to find out the attic was built with 2x4s, which is not code. We can't use that as rooms. The basement level had 5 rooms in there, but all of those rooms are not to code, so we can't use any of that. So now we have to figure out what other space can we use? Which the attic. So we want to take the attic and turn it into a second story, so that we can use that space for the children, because they are required to have their own room due to their machines. So.
Okay. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you.
Sounds like we have a repeat of the same issue from earlier.
Yes, but I tried to do everything that I could because I have to make this home safe for my children. So we went through it with a fine-tooth comb and tried to find everything that was wrong, or anything that, you know, the previous owner went in and changed without asking. So we were trying to make sure we just followed everything.
Thank you.
Chairman, I have actually one other question, if I may, real briefly.
Briefly, Alderman Lopez.
Ms.
She's
Mohammed,
got a lot of work to do on this house, so.
No, I get that. That's going to be my question, because I know
Alderman Lopez is going to help out.
right down the street from us. I'm happy to. You know, I'm just, my question is CHA helping you at all with this rebuild? I know they have various programs, both for ownership as well as for remodeling some of their properties. Are they participating in this, or is this all on you?
Okay, so basically they're gonna help with accommodation for my disabled children, as far as sidewalk, and a couple of other things in the home, bringing it up to efficiency, as far as the furnaces, the installation. But no, basically we have to cover the addition. It's all on me, which I have a company that agreed to do it because of my disabled children. They are putting up all the money for it.
Nice. No. Okay. Thank you, Chairman.
All right. Any more questions? Alderman Raboyes, is that a move, or you have a question?
Just a quick comment, Mr. Chairman. Just want to
Yes, sir.
wish Ms. Mohammed the best of luck with you and your family. You have some work ahead of you.
Thank you.
And the Lord is going to bless you in getting this done.
Thank you.
All right. With that, Alderman Raboyes moves to pass by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum. Any objections to the motion? Hearing none, the item's passed. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
All right. Middle of page 8, document number 20450, T1, 32nd Ward. Ordinance was referred on July 22nd of 2020. Common address, 1907 West Fullerton Avenue, and the change request from an M33 heavy industry district to a B22 neighborhood mixed use district. We have Tom Moore.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Tom Moore, for the record, and this is a single-family home in a non-conforming in a manufacturing zone. The owner wanted to renovate it. Basically, it was in very bad condition. He was going to kind of use the foundation and start over. And so originally, after talking to the alderman and sending our plans to 2 community groups, we had planned on moving to an RT4, which would have accommodated the home because it's a small lot. However, we then realized that it's in a industrial corridor, and so we had to go through the Plan Commission. The Plan Commission had other ideas and thought it should be a B22, and we were kind of dead in the water for 6 months while that got talked back and forth. Anyway, eventually we agreed to do the B22, so we need a substitute narrative and plans, substitute ordinance. It's no longer from an M33 to a RT4, it's now to a B22. So that would be the first order of business.
Well, we're going to move to incorporate the records from the Plan Commission.
Yes, please.
By the same roll call that was used to determine quorum. Alderman Raboyes makes that motion.
So move.
Any objections to that? So, hearing no objections, the records are incorporated. And now what do we,
I still think we need to do a substitute because we're no longer asking for an RT4, which is what was filed originally.
all right. Alderman Raboyes moves to accept the substitute by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum. Objections to that?
So move.
All right. The substitute is accepted. Before we go on, Alderman Beal, do you have your hand up on this one?
I did, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted some clarity in the testimony that I just heard, that this has been held up for 6 months because the Plan Commission disagreed with the zoning administrator on what the zoning should be. Was that accurate?
Well, Mr. Moore, do you want to answer the Alderman's question?
I don't want to start any disagreements. There was a disagreement about what the ideal zoning should be, for a period of time, and eventually it was worked out.
Chairman, I can speak to that Alderman Beal's question too, if you like.
Alderman Wagasback.
Alderman Beal, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Okay. We, in our office, thought RT4 was appropriate there, and we went back and forth with planning on what ended up being the more appropriate B22, and we did have to go through the Plan Commission. But for the purposes of planning in that area, they were looking more long range, that B22 would be more amenable to that particular block. So that was on our end as well. The delay.
So that is accurate, but the Plan Commission held it up because they disagreed with the use that was being proposed, and you guys worked it out. But bottom line is there was a disagreement.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yeah. But
Thank you, Alderman Scott, Wagasback, and Alderman Beal. All right, Mr. Moore.
Well, that's the story. We're now finally here, and we have Alderman Wagasback's support, and we would respectfully request your support as well.
Alderman Scott, Wagasback.
Thanks, Chairman. And the item did pass at the Plan Commission. I recused myself there, just so you know. This isn't a PMD, so we had to make that change there. We did get the support of all the neighborhood groups and worked pretty diligently with Attorney Moore. He's been very patient and willing to work with us. So for the purposes of planning, I just asked for the favorable support of colleagues on the committee for this item.
All right, any more questions for the applicant or the Alderman?
Move to pass.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Alderman Beal moves they're going to move on this ordinance as revised and passed as revised. So so let me restate. We're going to ask for a motion to move this ordinance that was substituted and revised, and now it's obviously ready to be voted on. The motion.
I think there was a motion by either Alderman Beal
Alderman
or
Beal.
Lopez.
Okay. Alderman Beal moves by the same roll call that was used to establish quorum, both in revised and as amended. So, any objections to the motion? Hearing none, this item is passed as revised and amended.
Thank you, Chairman.
Okay. All right, thank you, Mr. Moore. Thank you for your patience with me on that one too, Mr. Moore.
Thank you.
All right, bottom of page 8. Document number 20486, 31st Ward. Ordinance was referred on September 9th of 2020. This common address, 4000 through 4180 West Diversey Avenue and 4029 through 4153 West George. Change request. Plan development number 1261 to plan development number 1261 is amended. Rich Cloud.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, and good afternoon also to other members of the committee. My name is Rich Clowder.
along with my colleague Katie Janke-Dale. We're with the law firm of DLA Piper, and we represent KV 4000 Diversity Commercial LLC, which is an affiliate of Nick Point Ventures, a New York-based development company, in connection with an amendment to residential business plan development number 1261 for the property that you mentioned at the outset in the 31st Ward. Our request today is to seek an amendment to Plan Development 1261 for the limited purpose of expanding uses across the site and facilitating the construction of proposed physical improvements to the historic warehouse building, including new storefront systems and 2 new roof decks, along with alterations to the non-historic building portions and new construction of a 50-foot tall building at the northwest portion of the site. I should mention at the outset that this amendment was considered and unanimously recommended for approval by the Plan Commission last Thursday, February 18th, 2021, and we would request that the transcript of those proceedings, as well as the resolution from the Plan Commission, be incorporated into the record here today.
Alderman Wagasback moves to incorporate the records from the Plan Commission by the same
Yes,
vote
Chairman.
count that was used to determine quorum. Any objections to his motion? Hearing none, the records are now incorporated. Rich.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Very briefly, this PD was adopted originally in 2014 to allow for the adaptive reuse of the former Marshall Fields warehouse complex for a mixed-use residential, commercial, office, and industrial development, and then it was amended in 2017. The amendment before you today would expand uses across the various sub-areas that you can see on your screens, all of which, or most of which at least, are already permitted in the underlying C22 zoning district classification. As I noted at the outset, this amendment also authorizes limited physical improvements to the historic warehouse building and the construction of a new 50-foot tall building that we hope will accommodate what the developer intends will be a film studio operator at this location. The applicant presented the proposed development at community meetings hosted by the 31st Ward on May 27th, 2020, and then most recently on February 11th, 2021. We appreciate your time and consideration of this project. Our client, Zane Koida, a principal with the developer, is available to answer any questions you may have, as is, I believe, Alderman Cardona, whose support and leadership have been critical and greatly appreciated throughout. He is available, I believe, to attest to his support. Otherwise, we request that you recommend City Council approval of this application. Thank you.
Right. I am well aware that Alderman Cardona is in support of this. I heard him speak at the Plan Commission. Would you like to say a few words to the committee, Felix? Our committee, I should say.
Yes, thank you, Chairman, fellow colleagues. I believe this current development will be a positive addition to the area that is needed for development. I have been in communication with both Nick Point Ventures and the community, and also with my zoning advisory council of the 31st Ward. We had multiple Zoom meetings, and we also met independently with residents on George Street, talking about the development. The developer made commitments to my office and to the city when it comes to job training and basically job fairs for those that are coming into this building on the Fields building, because they're renovating the first, second, and sixth floor. And then as well, hopefully a studio will be coming in the back end by George. For your favorable, I'm asking for your favorable consideration and support. Thank you.
Any questions for the Alderman?
Chairman, just.
Yeah, Alderman Burnett? No? All right. Vice Chair Raboyes.
I just want to commend my colleague on that program that's coming forward. And that's pretty much it. I support this.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. It's Alderman Burnett.
All right. Alderman Raboyes, are you finished?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Alderman Burnett.
So Mr. Chairman, I apologize. I was just trying to switch over to my phone. So this is a project in my ward?
No, we're getting to yours. This is the one that Marshall Fields in the 31st Ward.
Oh, I have no questions. No comment.
All right.
Easy, Walter. Easy.
Right.
Easy, Walter. Easy.
Chairman.
Right. Well, I was on Plan Commission and I did review this. I just have one question. My understanding is if it is a theater or movie production company. My understanding, the traffic pattern is all enclosed within the plan development. Is that correct? And it doesn't
is
have
correct.
an impact on George.
It is correct, and we've closed off access to George to mitigate the impact on the neighbors.
And then my other question is the back building, because I know there was some concern on the George residence. The current height of the building on George right now is what, and what will it be upon completion?
So the maximum height in the district or in the area is around 90 feet. The new construction aspect at the rear of the building on the northwest corner will be approximately 50 feet.
The existing height?
The existing height
The
is
existing height 30 feet.
30 feet.
And to be clear, the max in the middle of the building is 50 feet, but on the exterior wall by George Street, in order to mitigate sunlight impact and shadow impact, has been cut down to 44. Chairman,
Alderman Wagasbeck.
Just a point of information. I couldn't see who that was. Was that one of our?
That was Zane
Koida,
who is the developer
sorry.
of the project.
Sorry, I just saw him there. Sorry about that.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Alderman, there is some public art in this development too?
Yes, the public art will be designated either in the front or in the back of George. We're still working with the developer. I think we'll probably end up putting in the back and on the George Street, so residents could have something to look at, really nice, some kind of art that will portray the neighborhood.
Great. All right. Well, congratulations, Alderman, and
thank you so much, Chairman.
So I'm going to need a motion
So move, Mr. Chairman.
to pass this item as revised. That is Vice Chair Raboyes moves do pass as revised. All those, I'm sorry, any opposed to that motion? Hearing none, the item is passed as revised.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, now we're top of page 9. And we're on item number 20576, 30th Ward. Ordinance was referred on December 16th of 2020. And the common address is 2400 through 2440 North Mead Avenue and 6100 through 6138 West Fullerton Avenue. The change request, a POS number 1, regional or community park district to an RS3 residential and an RS3 residential single unit detached house, sounds like it said that twice, to an institutional plan development. All right, we have Scott Bornstein. Scott?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, can you hear me?
Hear you.
Terrific, thank you. Scott Bornstein from the Law Offices of Neal and Leroy, here on behalf of the Public Building Commission, who's here on behalf of the Chicago Public Schools and the Park District, who's involved in this matter as well. This is for a new elementary school for the Belmont-Cragen area, which is experiencing significant overcrowding. And so there's a need for a new school. This matter did go before the Plan Commission last week, so I would ask that all the records and findings from that hearing be incorporated into the records today.
So move, Chairman. Alderman
That was
Lopez.
Alderman Ray Lopez moves to incorporate the records of the Plan Commission by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum. Any objections to that motion? Hearing none, the records are incorporated.
Thank you. So this project has gone through extensive community outreach and review. And in fact, I submitted a letter today, which might have been submitted to the Plan Commission, but I submitted it to the committee as well, from the community indicating their support for the project. Of course, we want to recognize Alderman Raboyes, who was critical, in bringing the project to this point. And I'm sure, he will hopefully indicate his support at the hearing today. We have our team with us, Cal Lejeune from the PBC, Ivan Hansen from CPS, Heather Gleason from the Park District. So if you'd like us to run through the plans, we are happy to do that. Otherwise, we would just ask if the board, the committee has any questions.
All right. I see we have Alderman Cardona with his hand up on this.
Yes, Chairman, thank you so much. I'm just here, I just want to make a statement. I congratulate my colleague, Alderman Raboyes. It's been taking 5 years for this to come about, and working with all different communities, especially around Belmont-Cragen area, and especially for my residents and the children in my ward that will hopefully be transitioning into that new school. So it's a great plan. It's a great thing for our neighborhood and for our community, and I support this 120%.
All right. All right. Alderman Raboyes, I know that this is a welcome addition to your overcrowded school district, public school district. Want to speak on this?
That is correct, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank Alderman Cardona and Alderman Villegas for supporting this project. We've been at this, as Mr. Borstein stated, for over 5 years on this program. It's very important to note that the Belmont-Cragen Community and Northwest Side Housing Center has also been discussing and meeting for this very same subject for over 5 years. I've also attended meetings with the Chicago Park District Board and recently the Chicago Plan Commission. With this in mind, Mr. Chairman, our schools are reopening and our children are slowly going back to their classrooms. And looking forward, despite the decrease of population throughout the city of Chicago, it's important to note that the Belmont community the Belmont-Cragen community has over 80,000 residents, of which 1/3 of these residents are under the age of 18. And Mr. Chairman, as a former teacher, a parent, now a grandfather whose 3 grandkids go to CPS schools, I know the value of good education. I'm a proud graduate of the Chicago Public School System, and quality education is important, and creating a strong environmental and educational program is key for a successful future. This school will not only benefit even more of our children and help them start at a younger age, it will benefit our entire community for generations to come. So I thank everyone that's on board here, and I would ask for your favorable approval in granting the zoning change so we can move forward with this project. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Questions for the alderman? Alderman Wagisback.
Chairman, I was just going to make a motion to pass. But if I could, I just wanted to congratulate him as well. We had a very robust discussion, as you know, at Plan Commission, and the project looks fantastic, and just wanted to say congratulations.
Thank you, Alderman. Thank you, Chairman.
So if I could, I'd like to make a motion to pass based on the same roll call used to establish quorum.
So Alderman Scott Wagisback moves to pass as revised by the same motion that was used to determine quorum. Any objections to that? Okay. Hearing no objections, these records are, this item is passed as revised. Okay.
Thank you so much.
All right. Now we're going to be in the 27th Ward. Item number 20227. 27th Ward ordinance was referred on October 16th of 19. Been a while. Common address 1357 North Elston. The change request M33 Heavy Industry District to C33 Commercial Manufacturing and Employment District to a waterway plan development. And we have Katie Janky-Dale, I believe.
Yep. Good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Katie Janky-Dale from the law firm of DLA Piper. With my colleague, Rich Clowder, we represent the applicant in this matter, 1357 Property Owner LLC. As a preliminary matter, this application was heard and considered and recommended for approval, rather, at the January 21st, 2021 Plan Commission hearing, and we would request that a transcript from that hearing be incorporated into the record.
All right. So Alderman Raboyes moves to incorporate the records from the Plan Commission by the same roll call that was used to determine quorum.
So move.
Any objection to the motion? Hearing none, the records are incorporated.
Thank you. This matter involves the iconic Morton Salt site on the east side of Elston Avenue along the Chicago River. The site is approximately 4 acres, and the applicant is proposing the adaptive reuse for office, food and beverage, event space, and other commercial uses. As part of the project, over 500 feet of riverwalk will be created. The overall project FAR is a 0.8 and 17 on-site parking spaces will be provided, with additional event parking provided off-site and approved by DPD and CDOT. We worked closely with Alderman Burnett, North Branch Works, Halsted Triangle, Wild Mile, Friends of the River, and Friends of Goose Island, all of whom have indicated support. We saw Alderman Burnett on a couple matters ago. I think he's still here, but we are available for any additional questions you may have, but respectfully request this committee's support. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. I think we have Alderman Burnett on the call. Alderman Burnett on the North Elston, 1357 North Elston.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. They did go to the local community organizations, which is North Branch Work. We worked with them on this project. It did come to the Plan Commission. This is going to bring tourism to the city of Chicago, keep entertainment coming to a different area. It's going to sustain some jobs that's already there, and also the Morton Salt sign that all of us have known all of our lives, most of our lives. I know me, but also it's going to bring some jobs to that area. This is in the shadow of Cabrini Green. They agreed to work with myself and the residents from that community in order for them to get jobs, not only on the construction, but also in the venue. I asked for the committee support on this development. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Alderman. Questions for the applicant or the Alderman? Hearing none, can I get a motion to move to pass by the same roll call that was used to determine the quorum?
So move, Mr. Chairman. I'm proud of that.
By Vice Chair Raboyes makes that motion. Any objections to the motion? Hearing none, this item is passed as revised.
Thank you.
All right. I'm going to stay in the 27th Ward, but move to page 10. Document number 20435 T1, 27th Ward. Ordinance was referred on June 17th of 2020. Common address 732 through 742 North Noble Street, 1400 through 1402 West Superior Street, and the change request from an RS3 residential single unit detached house district to a B23 neighborhood mixed use district. And we have Dan Lauer on the call. Dan? Dan, I think you're on mute. You want to?
That's better, huh?
Yes, Dan.
This is the northwest corner of Superior and Noble. Superior is 1 block south of Chicago, as you know. We do have a substitute plans and narrative, Mr. Chairman.
So Alderman Raboyes moves to accept the substantive narrative plans for the type 1 application by the same roll call that was used to determine
So
quorum.
move.
Makes that motion. Any objections to his motion? Hearing none, the substantive narrative plans are accepted and will continue.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. So this is application 20435 T1. EZMB is the contract purchaser. The goal is to do a zoning map amendment RS3 to B23 for both properties to construct 3 new dwelling units with 3 off-street garage parking spaces on a resulting 29-foot wide lot. The beautiful brownstone that was built in 1903 is a 6 unit. That's at 1402 West Superior. That's not going to change in any manner. That'll be on a resulting 25-foot wide lot. This is a zoning lot. It's been sold over the years and is owned by the Ospina family currently. So after the favorable vote of the zoning committee, we hope Then we'll go on to the Zoning Board of Appeals to address side yards at the 1402 building. The garage, which straddles the back of both properties, will be demolished. There'll be 3 off-street garage parking spaces newly constructed for 742 for the new building. There'll be 3 added for the rear, at the rear of 1402 West Superior, because that's a 6-unit building, but also luckily because we're transit oriented, being a half a block from Chicago Avenue bus line, we only have to provide, we're only providing 3, not 6 parking spaces for the 1402 building. So we presented this last year to Eckerd Park Community Council, and they thought the building was a bit too tall. And then Alderman Walter Burnett scheduled a Zoom community meeting, and he convinced the applicant to cut from 4 units down to 3. And then at his further request, we've cut the height of the building at the streets at Noble and Superior. It's only going to be 34 feet 6 inches, although it's 44 feet at the northwest corner. So we appreciate Alderman Burnett's insight and his support. We have a letter of support just recently from a gentleman who lives right across the street. And all of this is for construction of 3 new dwelling units. That's all.
All right. Thank you, Dan. Alderman Burnett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. As the councilor said, we had a community meeting. I had him go to the Eckerd Park Community Council. They had some concerns with the height. We made him take down the height. Then they had some other concerns, so we made him take the top floor back a bit. And then they still had concerns, so I wanted to make sure that the neighbors on the block was okay with it. I had Dan to talk with the neighbors on the block. Most of the neighbors are owners but don't live there. So he did get a okay from a neighbor that was on the block. This is one of those where I had to make a decision. I don't see it as a bad development. It fits right in. It's just a little bit taller than one of the other buildings, but it's a nice building. One of the people from the community organization had a challenge, but he actually left it up to me to make the decision. So I'm making the decision. And so I asked the committee to move to pass on this project.
Thank you, Alderman. Any questions for Alderman Burnett or the applicant?
No questions, so move.
All right. Alderman David Moore moves to pass with the substantive narrative and plans. All those, I'm sorry, any opposed to that motion by Alderman Moore? Hearing none, item is passed with the as revised.
Thank you,
All
Mr.
right.
Chairman. Thank you, Alderman.
Yes. All right. Now we have one more application, but it's in the 44th Ward. I'm going to ask my vice chair to lead the discussion on this.
All right, thank
Ariel?
you, Mr.
All right.
Chairman. Last item number is 20586-T1 in the 44th Ward. The ordinance was referred on December 16, 2020. Common address 3436-3448 North Broadway. The change requests B3-2 Community Shopping District to a B3-3 Community Shopping District. Katrina McGuire will speak on this matter.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Katrina McGuire from Thompson Coburn here on behalf of the applicant, 3440 Broadway LLC. We are seeking to rezone the subject property in order to construct a 7-story hotel building with a maximum of 176 hotel rooms and 60 parking spaces. The project will also have ground floor retail and restaurant space, second floor event space, as well as a second floor outdoor amenity deck.
Before you go forward, is there a substitute on this?
There is, yes. Thank you, Mr.
Right.
Chairman. I apologize.
Chairman, I move to
Substitute
accept the substitute that Ms. McGuire is offering up.
So move on the substitute narrative by Alderman Wagaspak. So move. You may
Thank you.
proceed. Go
Thank
ahead.
you. Thank you for reminding me. So that said, we met with the East Lakeview neighborhood group as well as the 44th Ward Advisory Committee. We also had dialogue directly with some of our close by neighbors. And I believe we do enjoy the support of Alderman Tunney. I am here today with the project architect as well as with the property owners and hotel operators from Rebel Hospitality, and happy to answer any further questions.
Are there any questions by committee members? If not, Alderman Tunney?
Thank you, Vice Chairman. This is an exciting project that's adjacent to an oversubscribed hotel, so there's demand. It's also adjacent to a new development to the north that we approved, I don't know, within the last year on the old Treasure Island site. So what we've done is we've kept the floor plates 4 stories on Broadway to try to fit in appropriately with the scale on Broadway, but it is set back, and both projects are set back, and there are, I think, about 7 floors in total on both of them. But we have reached out to East Lakeview, as Katrina said, and the chambers, and we have their support on this one. So I'm excited about the development in my neighborhood, and I ask for the committee's support on this application. Thank you.
Good job, Chairman. Are there any questions for the chairman?
Alderman or Chairman, this is Anna Robles in zoning.
Hi.
I
Go ahead.
wanted to call out there is a substitute ordinance for boundary correction.
Chairman, I
accept-
move to accept the substitute. Alderman Lopez.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The substitute ordinance is before us. Thank you, Ms. Robles.
I move to I move to pass on the substitute item.
So Alderman Lopez is moving, do motion pass and as substituted by the same roll call to determines quorum. All in favor? All opposed? This item is passing. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Back to me. All right. Okay. Now we're going to go back. As I said, we had some technicalities with hearing from Commissioner Ford, but I'm going to bring this item back up, and it's on the addendum 02019-8529. Previously, we adopted the substitute as amended. We do have the Commissioner Ford, Commissioner Boudreau on the line, and I know that we're going to start with Commissioner Ford. His earlier testimony was based on a misunderstanding, and he's back to correct the record. After that, we'll hear from Matt Boudreau on the building side, and then we'll go to Chairman Villegas, who is the sponsor of the ordinance. So we'll start with our Fire Commissioner, Commissioner Ford.
Hello, Chairman Tunney, members of the committee. I hope that we're clear now. There was a little bit of confusion with the substitute ordinance, but as it stands, I'm in 100% approval of letting it go forth.
Thank you, Commissioner. How about Matt Boudreau from Buildings? If you want to comment on this, I know we had Grant, but now we have the Commissioner.
Good afternoon, Commissioner and members of the committee. Yeah, I want to thank Commissioner Ford and his team for working with our team to resolve any misunderstandings, and look forward to this ordinance moving forward. Thank you.
All right. Before I get to Alderman Villegas, any questions from committee members? All right, Alderman David Moore.
Thank you, Chairman. And I just want to be clear. I know Alderman Villegas did a lot of work on this, but I also know that we're not the subject matter experts, and I just want to be clear. It's the commissioner's testimony after looking at everything. He's saying to move forward that the issues that were at place that caused this to be held, those issues to him have been rectified.
That is correct, Alderman.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right. I have one question on this because it's come up to me today. So and maybe Matt, you can answer this question or whatever. So this is a rental building, and for some reason, on the smoke detectors, they were purposely disconnected from the unit. On the penalty side, what happens if that situation occurs? Is there a time where they'll be given a warning and they'll have to cure this issue? Because we've heard over the years, and I know the fire commissioner could attest to it, some people just rip them off. Who's going to answer that one?
Well, Mr. Chairman, that is one reason we do want a 10-year sealed battery. Most of the times when the smoke detector is disengaged, it's because the battery has run out.
Right.
And it's chirping, and instead of replacing the battery, the person will just remove it. Having a 10-year sealed battery that addresses at least part of that issue. The battery is good for 10 years. You'll replace it after 10 years. And also one important thing here is that under the current ordinance, the landlord is responsible for replacing the batteries in smoke detectors in the common areas, and the tenant is responsible for replacing the batteries in his or her dwelling unit. This then takes the responsibility of the tenant replacing batteries out of the equation. So every 10 years, the landlord is going to have the smoke detectors replaced, and we don't have to worry about the tenants taking the batteries out anymore.
But that will eventually happen, but we still have a time period from now that we're allowing batteries to be used. They're not hardwired, and the landlord might not know what's happening inside the rental unit. So who is responsible and who could get fined for it?
Well, communication is always the key. So we do, and the fire department as well, will always ask tenants and landlords to communicate with each other. So, a landlord shouldn't just assume everything's going fine. They should communicate with their tenants, and tenants shouldn't assume that landlords know everything, and they should communicate with their landlords. So it's a team effort at this point, and we do encourage folks to communicate with one another. That's the best.
Right.
That's the best method of.
Right.
If you tell somebody tell somebody there's an issue, somebody will be able to address it.
All right, Alderman Walter Burnett.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So you got to excuse me. I got two dogs in my other hand, but
Point of order: never blame the dogs.
So, and they pulling so this 10-year, I was under them. I don't know why earlier I came in late. I thought it was going to be you had to put the electrical smoke detectors in, but this is not putting the electrical smoke detectors in, right? This is just putting a 10-year battery in.
That's correct. It's not mandating hardwiring of existing smoke detectors. Now, most new construction is hardwired. So we're talking about the older units.
And people have 10 years in order to do that. And who would check that? The building department is going to check that, or?
Well, again, it would be the owner's responsibility and the tenant's responsibility to make sure that it's up to code. If we do see that it's not, we will address it.
All right, good deal. So it's just a 10-year battery. Okay. All right. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, Alderman Villegas on the ordinance
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
as substituted.
Yes, the substitute ordinance. That way we're on the same page here. I don't want to have anyone confused, especially after multiple meetings, still be confused the day of. So, Mr. Chairman, this is introduced back in March of 2020. passed out of the committee 9-3, as you stated earlier. I heard from my colleagues that there was some concerns. I went ahead and pulled it back, went back to the table, worked closely with the mayor's office, Chicago Fire Department and his general counsel, as well as the Department of Buildings to come to a compromise. And as you can see from the one pager, it takes into account the battery and at some point prohibiting those as other states have moved away from that, and gives enough lead time in order to come into compliance, because we want to take into account that the current smoke detectors that are battery operated have a shelf life of 10 years. So we want that shelf life to expire, and then once it expired, then you transition over to the 10-year sealed battery. So again, this has been a ongoing discussion for quite some time, a lot of negotiating back and forth. I want to thank the Chicago Fire Department, Department of Building, and the Mayor's Office for working with me to come and put forward a better ordinance, and based off some of the concerns that I've heard from some of my colleagues. And I ask for a favorable consideration.
All right. Questions? Any more questions? All right. Hearing no questions, then you are moving this you want to move this ordinance today, the substitute ordinance today. Is that correct?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman.
All right. So Chairman Villegas makes the motion to move the ordinance as amended. Any by the last roll call of the committee, any objections to that?
No objections.
All right, so be it then. This ordinance is passed as amended today and will be reported out on Wednesday.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, colleagues.
Thank you, Chairman Villegas. What else do I- Having no other business, I need to entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved,
So moved.
Chairman.
Is that you or your dog, Alderman Lopez?
With my dog sleeping beside
Okay,
me.
just
I
want to make
move
sure. I
adjourn.
think then Burnett seconds it, right? So anyways, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, hearing no objections. Any
Peace out.
opposed? This meeting is adjourned.